make your skin, they start making more cells. Fine, we have a good ingredient now. We have cells eventually will make us a heart. And by the way, the cells which makes our heart, which is an organ, it's not same kind of cells that makes our skin. It's not the same kind of cells that makes our liver. So as these cells are what we call differentiating, they identifying themselves as the cells of the heart. So you have a lot of those cells now. How do the cells of the heart individually know? They have to travel together and find that place where the heart is going to be, and gather together, unite together, bond together, interact together to make that tissue of the heart and eventually the organ. Likewise, the cells that will make your skin, they don't go inside your heart because they have no benefit in there. They have benefits on the surface of your body. So they somehow know where to go. Exactly. Like if I tell you, you have to go to Birmingham, it's this number of street in that house. If you've never known where Birmingham is, you might end up in the USA.
Absolutely.
Somewhere else. And you might never know how to go there. I mean, come on. Are you going to take a bus or a train or a car? Are you going to start walking thinking I will end up in Birmingham? You would have no idea. But the cells we observe, they know exactly where to go and end up like for like. The cells of the skin will come together and interact and bond and pass information so that they have this whole tissue forming together. They don't just simply jump around, fall off and go somewhere else. This happens to all the organs of your body. All the cells that make tissues of something eventually forms organs. Cell, tissue, organ, that's the order. How do they do that? Cells, do they have consciousness? Do they have a brain? Do they think? Do they know? They are only following instructions. And yet, when you observe these instructions in operation, you still are doubtful about the instructor. You still are doubtful about the creator, the designer who designed all of this, and you ask, where is the evidence? Where is God? It's all around you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your creator, tells us. Do they not see which is even within themselves? سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق. God says we shall soon show them the signs, the wonders, the evidences, the miracles within the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them this is the truth.
Absolutely. And brothers and sisters and friends, I want you to consider something. Today, when you woke up in the morning, when you had breakfast, when you had your Weetabix or cornflakes or you had some fruit, you need to understand, for that to come to your mouth, it had to have a process which involved the bee. The bee, the humble bee that we see, the honey bee, the bee that goes and pollinates, is a miracle. And it's a miracle which Allah, God in the Quran points out. And I want you to consider something. There was a scientist at the beginning of the 20th century who was confused by the question that when bees leave their hive and they go and fly out, they go and travel very far distances to go look for nectar. And when they find the nectar, they come back to the colony. And there is some form of communication, because what the scientists Carl von Fresh realized is that the other bees were headed in the direction of that nectar. So he wanted to find out what is happening with these bees. How do they know this that particular nectar is 3 kilometers northwest of this location. How is it that the bee comes back and new bees may leave the colony 5 hours later and they will head in that direction? What is the communication channel? How is this information being transmitted? What he discovered is that when the bee comes back to the colony, the other bees observe it, and that bee starts to dance, and it dances in an 8 figure, and that dance has moves which convey information to the other bees. So the direction of the dance tells the bees the directions of the nectar. The duration of the wiggle tells them the distance to the nectar. Roughly 1 second of wiggle means 1 kilometer of distance. So the bees watching the new bee that came in will know that it needs to head out northwest 3 kilometers. But there's a problem. The problem is the sun is moving throughout the day. So if a bee leaves 3 hours later and the direction that it has in relative to the sun, it's going to be misguided because the sun has moved, so it will go in a different direction. The system that God has created is such that there is a solar compass. There is a solar compass, would you believe it, within the bee, and it recalibrates the distance according to the time that it leaves the nest and it reaches the nectar and it comes back. Allahu Akbar is what Muslims say. God is great. God is the designer, and all of this around us. We see the birds in the sky. We see the trees around us. We see the amazing, walk past the shops on this park lane. You see a fruit shop. You see mangoes, you see oranges, you see bananas, you see watermelon, you see pineapples. You see all of this. This is all the result of an incredible process. What is it that generates this in front of our eyes? It's the water from the sky and the mud of the earth. Yet the variety of fruits is evidence. There is a creator, a provider, a sustainer that we need to be grateful for. And as Mansoor pointed out, we ourselves in this life are chasing status. We are chasing money. We are chasing sexual gratification. We are chasing buildings. We are chasing cars and these lowly things. The greatest chase is the chase to have a relationship with God who created you, and the promise of God in the Quran. The promise of God in the Quran and the promise of the messengers of God is that true peace and happiness comes by having a relationship with God, not by chasing these things, because it's never made anyone happy. When have you ever heard of a celebrity who says, that's it, I have enough money, I have enough fame, I've slept with enough people, I am happy now, I am content? You never hear that. Instead, they go into an addiction of drugs and gambling, and they are never satisfied.
Subhanallah. The reality is in front of you and you do not reflect. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Would you not see? How can you be so much in negligence about your own life? How can you be so much in negligence of your hereafter? In negligence of your ultimate abode? Because you know very well, death is not the end of your life. Because you wish something forever. You wish there was going to be justice for the injustices committed. Do you think the people who commit injustice will get away? Even the very fact of justice tells you there has to be a day of judgment. You know in your heart that is what is the requirement of justice. And you believe in it even when you didn't know about it. When you were a 3-year-old and a toy was snatched from your hand, you started to do what? You cried and you appealed, give it back, it's mine, because you know inherently justice was violated. So justice is something all people know that is there, and we need to be sure that it is implemented in this life and in the hereafter. So in this life, where you see people are massacred, they are killed through infanticide, genocide, ethnic cleansing, do you think they will get away because some people are silent? Because you are silent? Do you think they will not have their reckoning in the day of judgment for all the things that they have done? Of course, they will never get away from the justice of the Creator. So what we want to share with you Islam. Islam is something that you already know within your own self. It is the inner recognition of the reality that there is a Creator and there is one and only Creator. And from that inner recognition, the next step of you making an assertion to be committed to this recognition, making the declaration that indeed, yes, of course, there is a Creator, and I have to submit and surrender to this Creator's will. And thirdly, the next step is to commit ourselves in our limbs, through actions of our limbs, by showing how we submit to the laws and regulations of our Creator. That is Islam. Three-level recognition and commitment in your heart, in your tongue, and in your limbs' actions. Islam is already in your body. Your body, your heart, your lungs, your stomach, they are Muslims already, because they follow the instructions, the rules of your Creator. You cannot say, let me stop breathing. Let me stop breathing. You can't do that. Your lungs are programmed for you to exchange these gases. It's already following this information, this code, this program. Your heart is already submitting to the law of your God, your Creator. So is every part of your organs. What is required is you to acknowledge this fact in your heart, the spiritual heart, and commit yourself in this recognition by declaring, yes, I agree, yes, I surrender, and show it through your actions. That is what is required for you to do. Islam is that simple. So we invite you to the next step of surrendering to your Lord, your Creator, fulfilling your obligation that you are created for. Do you think you are created in this life for vain, with no purpose, with no meaning? How do you judge? Are the ones that see and one that don't see the same? Are the one who is with knowledge and one who is not with knowledge are the same? They're not the same. So you need to ask yourself, why are you not fulfilling your obligations, fulfilling your duty and your purpose in life, which is to submit and surrender to your Lord, and that is your worship, your gratitude. If you do so, the message of Islam is that God has promised you what?
God has promised for those who believe and they follow God's messengers. He has promised them eternal life. He has promised them paradise. But for the disbelievers, the people who see the evidence of God, they see the evidence of God's messengers, yet they rationally do not want to accept it because they recognize it to be true in their mind, but it's not in line with their desire. Those people, God says, the disbelievers, will be in hellfire. This is something we do not shy away from. And even in this life, I wanted to give an example. Behind us you hear people talking about Palestine. Why is it that in front of our eyes we see that the people of faith, when they are suffering, we see strength, we see power, we see will, we see tenacity, we see passion, we see determination. Yet people who are raised on a liberal worldview, on an atheist worldview, on a materialistic worldview, they come across the smallest problem. They're walking down Park Lane and a pigeon drops on them, and that affects their clothes and they're upset. A small action, a small sickness, a little financial burden, and some people in the West commit suicide. Yet we have people who are under rubble, who are under pain, who are under torture, but they testify there's none worthy of worship except God. Why? Because faith shows its fruits, and faithlessness, godlessness, atheism and agnosticism shows the evil fruits that you will get. And what are those evil fruits? Your weakness, your laziness, your lack of determination. That's why we are calling you to the faith of truth, the faith of Islam, because it's a faith of strength. Why is it that strong figures like Malcolm X converted to Islam? Why is it that today Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, and it's the religion of the youth, and it's the religion which, despite all of the media attacks, keeps growing? It's because it is the truth.
And how do we recognize the truth? By studying, assessing, scrutinizing and verifying it. When you study all the different isms and belief systems, religions and ideologies, because that's what you will do now. You will now question the very existence of so many differing and contradicting belief systems and ideologies and religions. And instead of being confused, you will take certain critical measures to eliminate the obviously erroneous and false ones. The religion which tells you worship a man, worship a rat, worship a tree, worship your desires, worship the creation, worship many gods, you will realize this is not the truth, because it will not make sense to you. It will not appeal to your heart and your mind, because truth will resonate with your heart and mind. When you realize the universe and the laws operating in this universe, you see the grand control of one controller. You see the grand design of one designer. If there are multiple gods, the universe will be in chaos, in ruins. Had there been more than one God, there will be corruption and ruin in this world. But the fact that we see how everything is in the precision as they are, the electron spins, everything rotates, determined by a singular controller, designer, creator. So the religion, the ideology, the belief system that says there is one absolute, independent, self-sufficient creator, free from all weaknesses and deficiencies and imperfection, is the one you should be seeking. And what religions could there be out there apart from the one and only? And what is that?
The religion that makes the most sense for humanity is the religion which is in line with your reason. What does Islam say about God? Islam says about God what the rational mind accepts, which is that there is one God who is worthy of worship. and that one God is nothing like his creation. Yet when you find religion today, it tells you a man is God, or an animal is God, or the blue sky is God, or the universe is God. But the one single religion which teaches you pure monotheism, true monotheism, is the religion of Islam. And the religion of Islam is something which came to call humanity back to something we already know, that there is none worthy of worship except one God. Because like Mansour said, it doesn't make sense that there are multiple gods. It makes sense that there is one God. So why should I worship before other than God? Why shall we call upon other than God? Why should we love or put our hope or trust in a false deity when the one true God, the supreme God, the one who created us, the one who created the humble bee, the one who controls this universe, that God is the one who is worthy of worship, and that's the God that we are calling to.
The God that we are calling to is the God that you know and your heart and your mind will accept. This God is called by a name that your heart will recognize. It doesn't accept a duality. It doesn't accept a plurality. It doesn't accept gender. So you cannot have a God now who is a father or a mother or many gods. Allah is the name of your God. You cannot have many Allahs. You cannot have Allah S or whatever. You cannot have a son or a daughter or father or mother of Allah. Because Allah is As-Samad, Al-Ahad. He is the one, the only, the unique, the one who is independent and self-sufficient, the one who is absolute, the one who doesn't produce or beget or generate another God, whether they be a son or a daughter. Neither is he begotten or produced or generated or born from other gods before him. And there is no likeness in whatsoever with this God. That is a God your heart and your mind will resonate to accept. Why? Because your heart already knows the true concept of God. So when you hear the Islamic concept of God, you know that is what you're seeking. That is what you are already wishing to believe, but you never heard of it because of the propaganda. The West and the East and the North and the South are so busy and preoccupied you to distract you from recognizing this truth. The distraction is so that if you became a Muslim, they will lose their benefits and their interest. They will not be able to run this multi-billion-dollar industry of alcohol, pornography, all of these vices that you know, but you still consume them. So when Islam will free you from the slavery of all of these things, it will bring you back to the worship of your Creator, what your hearts so desire. Instead of worshipping God, look what you've done. Because the fact of reality is, you are programmed, you are made with a psyche, a makeup in which you have to show reverence to someone greater than you in any form of appreciation. That is why you end up there when there's a gig, when there's a music festival, and you will do, even if that singer said, jump naked, you will jump naked. You will follow whatever they say. That is your reverence, your love, your respect, your gratitude, your ultimate connection that you are showing to these celebrities, pop stars, footballers, and the like. Why? Because in you, you already have the Sons of Reverence program. Instead of channeling this to show this to God, your Creator, you are misdirecting to those others that doesn't deserve your love, and your respect and your utmost reverence. Because the only being that deserves your utmost reverence, which we say is worship, is only God and none else. That is the message of Islam. Freeing yourself from the bondages of worshipping everything else other than the Creator.
Absolutely. And I wanted to share something. If we have an idea, a concept, we need proof of that concept. We need proof that that concept works. And I want to make a challenge. And the challenge is to a worldview which was actually espoused here in Speaker's Corner. This worldview was a worldview of materialism, a worldview which was based on godlessness. In this very Speaker's Corner, over 100 years ago, Karl Marx stood and he called people to his worldview. I want to compare Marxism with the religion of Muhammad, peace be upon him, because what we know in the 20th century and the 21st century is both of these worldviews went head to head. Today, as we stand, we have over 100 million people who have died under the Marxist regimes of the last 100 years due to the repression of state atheism. We had the oppression of Christians, of Jews, of Muslims, of Buddhists in Central Asia, in East Europe. We had these regimes which were trying to suppress religion. Yet today, what do we find? We find that the faith of Muhammad, peace be upon him, is back, and is back with fire. And we find that the Marxist ideas, the state atheistic ideas are dead. Why is that? That is because ultimately human beings are not meant to be materialistic. Ultimately, human beings are searching for something greater. Even in the motherland, even in the Soviet Union today, there is a resurgence of religion. There is a resurgence of the belief in God. Just in this park, I met somebody from Ukraine, a woman who was an atheist, and she was brought up with state atheism that the Marxists have taught her. But later in life, she came to believe in God. She's one example of tens of millions of people who turn back to God. But the turning back to God is not enough. You have to turn back to the correct concept of God. And the correct concept of God is that there's only one God worthy of worship. And that concept of God is what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught, which is why Mohammedism beats Marxism any day of the week, any century of human existence.
We, of course, do not call our religion Mohammedism. My brother just illustrated the difference of ideologies that these two respected individuals brought. So we do not worship Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We worship the God of Muhammad, and whoever worships Muhammad will be at a loss in hellfire. This is the message of Islam, that you turn back to the worship of God, God of all the prophets and God of all the messengers, because in this is your success and your salvation. So we want to leave with this point for you to reflect. When was the last time that you picked up a copy of the Quran, or you went to listen to recitation of the Quran, or you went to read a translation of the Quran? When was it? If we see more than 1/4 of the world's population are Muslims, believing in this book, that is their constitution, that is their book of guidance, the book they follow to live their life by. More than 1/4 of the world population. And you have no idea what this book is about, what it says about God, what it says about you, what it says about death, what it says about hell and heaven. Yet you have read Harry Potter. You have read this book or that book. Why is it that your sense of priority is so low and misguided? You should have prioritized to pick up or read the Quran to say, hang on,
What's going on?
what's going on?
Have you read the
Let
Quran?
me find out. Let me find out. Why is this book believed by more than 1/4? A billion people in this world.
People aren't very good at evaluating things.
Why do you do that? And not only that, why do the educated class?
Against.
Why do the educated
I
class?
didn't understand your point. What did you say?
Why
Sorry, I
do
can't hear you very well. It's quite
women
loud.
who are educated are becoming more
Yes.
Muslims in number compared to the uneducated or compared to men? If Islam is so much against
Yes.
women and women's rights, why do we have
Is Iran against
3 out
Iran-
of 4 people
is the
that
Iranian
becomes
Guard
Muslim?
against women?
That is 75%.
Is the Iranian Guard against
Why is it, my friend, listen and answer this question.
Only
If
it's a good-
Islam is so oppressive to women as the media wants to
Is
portray,
Iran oppressive to
I've
women?
not finished asking my question.
Go on then. Go on then.
If Islam has
Why
the
are
way,
people picking it up? That's the question.
I thought-
Guess the question. If it's
I
oppressive
thought
to women,
you
why
were
are
going
they
to
picking
let me finish
it
my
up?
question.
If it's the question I've just predicted,
No,
you should have ended it sooner.
I thought you were going to let me finish this
Well,
question.
I guess what the question is.
Yeah. So I'm asking a simple question, and I'm going to ask this question to a woman. If the society portrays Islam to be so much against the rights of women, oppressing women, why do 75% of the converts to Islam, or those who accept Islam, are educated women? Are you a woman?
That was a terrible question.
So let me ask this lady over there. Are you a woman?
You didn't
That
ask.
was his question.
Actually, what is a woman?
That was his question.
The problem
Terrible
today,
question. Am I
the
a
problem today,
About simplicity.
the problem today is these simplistic narratives
Like his,
of
like his.
love.
Are you a woman?
Women are being oppressed in Islam, like this gentleman is alluding to. Are things which don't fit in line with the fact that women convert to Islam. What is your question, sir? I don't understand your question.
In UK. Oh, okay. Suppose now I was able to provide you the statistics. If that was true, what would be the explanation?
Yes.
No, amazing isn't good enough. Because if
I'll give you.
Islam
I'll give
was
you.
oppressing
I'll
women,
give you. I'll give you a statistic.
There you go.
I'll give you a statistic. I'll give you a statistic. So, every single year, 100,000 people accept Islam through our organization alone, which is called IRA. No, around the world. Latin America, Africa, Europe, everywhere. In our conversions, over 60% are women. So the question is, why? If what he said, the question is, wait 1 second, the question you didn't hear before he came. He said, if Islam is oppressive, why are they converting? That's the paradox that the liberals have.
Is Iran oppressive to women?
That doesn't answer the question that we posed.
It's a simple question. Can you answer it? Is Iran oppressive to women?
Let me ask you
there are many countries which do not implement the law of God. They will implement the law of man and
Can I
oppress
get a
women.
yes or a no, please?
I'll answer.
I'm answering. If Iran did not implement the law of Islam, and they oppress women but not allowing them to educate themselves, not allowing them to develop themselves as Muslims, if you find something like this, then you and I would agree this is not the teaching of Islam, and that is what the problem is.
So the answer would
But
be yes,
in reality,
it is oppressive. And your get out is that you're saying they're not Muslim. That's your...
Let me answer the question in a different way. Let me answer the question in a different way. Marxists oppressed women in Central Asia by removing their hijabs. So you cannot say, therefore Marxism itself overall oppresses women. That may or may not be true, but the actions of individuals does not make a difference. But anyway, let's get down to the one I said to you earlier.
So let me ask this shit. As we realize, Islam has been portrayed.
Brother, I won't go.
Brother. Just be quiet. Brother.
Let's do it.
Brother. Listen, Mansoor.
So now the Sheikh, I'm asking the Sheikh.
Yeah.
If Islam is portrayed by the media, such oppressing of women, degrading of women, having no rights, women having no rights. The question I was asking, why are women turning against Islam?
Now, not just only women, I'm talking about even Western women, because we are working in many mosques in the UK, especially in London. Like we have literally significant amount of conversion amongst women more than men. Now I'm talking about Western women. We're talking about European women, white European women who accept Islam. I'm talking about significant. Even today, a sister took Shahada. Who is European woman. No, what I'm saying, if Islam oppresses women, why those educated women? I'm saying Islam doesn't at all.
That's the conclusion.
That's the conclusion, because there are studies. I'm talking about people who are. One second.
My question was, does Iran oppress women?
I'm not here to represent Iran. I am not here to defend.
Listen,
Listen,
it's a simple question.
I disagree with Iran.
But is Iran a Muslim
Listen.
Is Iran a Muslim state?
Listen.
Is Iran
I don't believe.
Okay,
Iran,
let me put it to you.
Iran is a Muslim state. Listen,
wait.
I don't believe Iran is a Muslim state.
Thank you very much.
Embassy and ask them.
That's all I wanted to
That's
get
my
to.
take.
That's what I wanted to get to.
This is not the women right. Not because of the women right. It's because of the ideology in Iran. That's my point. So for me, that's something else. So for me, that's something. But we're not talking about Iran. We're talking about Islam as a whole, as a great thing, as a great religion. Many people accept Islam.
Islam exists in Iran.
Iran. Okay, look. Let me answer it in another way. Look, Iran as a state, they do not even understand the basic of Islam, that you do not call upon other than God. Everywhere you go in Iran, it says Ya Ali or Ya Muhammad or whatever. So no, let me answer your question. If Iran doesn't understand the basic concept of monotheism, you cannot expect it to follow any other ethical system. We're here to talk about women in Islam, not Iran. Carry on.
So going back now here.
Carry on.
Listen. I know you want to drive the discussion into a certain corner. We're talking about Islam as a whole. Listen. If you have, no problem. If you have, I am not Iranian. I myself, I'm not Iranian. None of us are Iranian here. We are not here to represent Iran. I don't care about.
I was going to look at whether Islam is present in the world, and I was going to ask if that area is
Okay, talk about
Islam.
Let's talk about Islam exists in the West.
Some areas, isn't it?
Let's talk about Islam in the West. Here, let's talk about it. Because we are here, all of us, we live in London, we are in the West. Does Islam exist here? Yes. Now, we're talking about significant number of women who convert to Islam, very highly educated, people who are very highly educated, psychiatrists, doctors, engineers, professors who accept Islam on a daily basis. Why they do it?
Because atheism doesn't make any sense.
I'll tell you what, the media in the past, they tried to be manipulative against Islam, to do what? To turn people against Islam. And because of this, those women, after reading about Islam, and they discovered actually what the media is saying is totally inaccurate, it's totally against the teachings of Islam, and made them actually to accept Islam. So those media, the social media and the media in general, what they have done, they try to be an instrument to destroy the da'wah to Islam. And actually they became an instrument to bring people to Islam, because it makes the people to ponder about Islam. And I will tell you examples. For example, in September 11, after what happened in the United States, it's actually the following year. It is the most year, the significant number of people accepting Islam. Can you imagine? In a time where people, all targets against Muslims, in the same year, in United States alone, many people accept Islam during that year. Why is that? Because they found all of these things, all these atrocities is not done by true Muslims. That's a key thing. So that's why we are saying to the people, Islam is represented by Islam itself, not by the people, not by countries, not by individuals. Islam is to represent itself by itself through the Quran and through the teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him. That is the key thing. So that's why when you come to discuss with us about Islam, talk to us about the Quran, talk to us about the Sunnah, the prophetic teachings, peace be upon him. That is the key thing. Okay, good.
Takbir!
Allah. Now, you had enough questions. Shall we take questions from others? Any question from everyone here?
About Islam. I mean, the first question we would ask you is,
Hang on.
if you're not a Muslim,
You've got to let the audience ask.
if you are not a Muslim, we would like to know why you are not a Muslim.
No, I want to put it on
Are you a Muslim?
No, don't
Why are you
ask-
not a Muslim?
Why are you asking me a question?
It's important to
I wanted
know.
ask
By
you
the way,
a
before
They're so tricky
let's give the other people the chance. Anyone want to ask about Islam? We are here to answer. We are here to answer about Islam.
Okay, I have a
If
question.
you have any question before you come,
okay, someone else.
and then if there is anyone else, then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Anyone who have a question about Islam, come forward. We are here. We are happy, and that's the key thing. This is the beauty of Islam. It's an open book. For you, there is no hidden things. There is no hidden information. Any question? Now going back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I recently listened to the audiobook of the Quran, and I skipped around a bit, and I went into like one of the 4th chapters or something, and it was going along, it was talking about women, and then it said, if there's a dispute in a household, first of all you sort of say, hey, don't do that, and then the second time you say, hey, really don't do that, and the third time you say, you bloody well better not do that, and the 4th time, how does it end?
You've heard it yourself. You've
No,
heard it
that's my
yourself.
question. My question is, how does it end?
So how did you hear
One
it?
second. What you said is totally false. This is not what-
I didn't paraphrase
No,
that correctly at all.
there is nothing like this.
Nothing like that. Okay,
Nothing like
I'm
this.
sorry guys.
Next question.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Don't make this mistake again.
Okay,
Next question.
I've really got to go and study that Quran again.
Yes, good.
The source of Sam Harris and
Anyone else have a question?
some neutral platforms.
Okay.
One of the things that atheists do is they bring out ethical issues and they say this is immoral, that is immoral. But the problem is the most immoral people in the last 100 years, as I pointed out earlier, were the atheists. 100 million people would be alive today if it was not for state
Actually, the
atheism.
offspring, not just 100 million.
In Central Asia, you had the destruction of Buddhist temples, of synagogues, of mosques, of churches. You had the destruction of entire civilizations by the Marxists, by the atheists, by the communists. So it's quite rich. It's quite rich. Marxism and atheism are tied at the hip. It's tied at the hip. It's tied at the hip. It's tied at the hip. It's
Marxism and communism are economic theory.
okay.
The speaker understands that.
Here we have somebody who's claiming there's no link between Marxism and atheism.
They're not the same.
Yet, didn't the Marxist states apply state atheism?
Doesn't make atheism.
Ah, there we go. There we go.
1 second.
There we go. What I asked is this.
What is the common thing?
It just happens to be a coincidence. It just happens to be a coincidence that the Marxist states applied state atheism. They killed religious people, destroyed
Even nowadays in
state
China.
atheism.
Even nowadays in China.
And
That sounds something.
when we had the French Revolution, again, the atheists used violent state atheism. So state atheism was a weapon of the Marxists.
Atheism, and how do you use it?
How do I define atheism? Atheism is a lack of belief in God.
Pick selectively words that I said. You have to quote.
Firstly, you fell into a trap.
Oh, silly me.
I asked you, why is it that the Marxist states were following state atheism and you didn't have an answer?
That you can follow.
Okay,
Tell them, what is state
state atheism is the application of materialism being taught at academic institutes, being taught to students in a way that forces them to give up their beliefs. For example, just down the road, outside Parliament, there was a jury that came together, and they came together to discuss the state atheism, the cultural genocide by the communist atheist regime of China against the Uyghurs. And they concluded there was a cultural genocide. And state atheism was being applied. And people that were there, that were witnesses. I interviewed myself, a woman called Zumrat Dawood. And that interview you can find online. You can find her being interviewed by many different media outlets. She was being tortured because she said the word Allah. She was being tortured by atheists. So atheists want to come here. They want to talk about women's rights. They want to talk about the rights of frogs. Yet when they have power, they absolutely destroy humanity. And one last thing I want to add. 100 million people died in the last 100 years because of atheism, and you don't have an answer for that.
Not just that. Even Muslims who are in China, they are forced to leave their faith. They are forced to eat during the month of Ramadan.
Yes.
They are forced to eat pork. They are forced to drink alcohol. Stalin and his people.
Stalin forced people to drink alcohol.
Yes, to drink alcohol. He endorsed this. And not just that, Muslims, they were not allowed to practice. And as well, people during his time, that they used to be hiding under the ground just to pray. And I know we have many people. We have in Jordan, Cherkessian and Chechnese who literally run away from him, and they settled in the Middle East because of the torturing, because they want to continue to practice Islam. And we have we have live witnesses who run away from Russia due to this, due to atheism. It wasn't about communism. It wasn't about communism. Because Hitler was a communist. Hitler was a communist, by the way. So the common thing.
He wasn't an atheist, though, was he?
Yeah, he wasn't atheist. He was communist.
He was a Darwinist, though.
Darwin.
He was one of your Abraham.
He was a Darwinist.
He was a Darwinist like you. So that's a key
Darwinism
thing.
isn't a religion.
What we have, okay, Darwinism's not a religion. Darwinism's not a religion. Yet, I want to ask the gentleman here, why can he walk into Waterstones and pick up a book by Oxford University Press by Michael Roos called Darwinism as Religion? So why is it? So why is it the case that academics like Mary Midgley, they call evolution a religion? Michael Roos calls it Darwinism as religion. What we find is everything we're saying about what state atheism did to the religious communities is corroborated by academics. For example, there's a book called The Plot to Kill God by Paul Froese. And what he does in this book, this historian, he documents the Soviet experiment of secularization in Central Asia, in Eastern Europe, and that secularization policy entailed the teaching forcibly of children that there is no God.
Can you imagine teaching children
And that's exactly what the communists did. That's exactly what Stalin did. That's exactly what Chairman Mao did. That's exactly what happened during the Cultural Revolution. That is exactly, he's too weak. He doesn't have the authority.
If you have the authority, you will do that. If you have the authority,
educating children.
if you have the authority, you will do it. You will force children to not believe in God. And anyone who believes in God, you gotta target them. That's exactly, this is atheism. That's how it is. Because for you, those are numbers. Those are numbers. Those are molecules walking on earth. Molecules. You could get from
What we need to realize, if this universe has no purpose, has no design, there is no good, there is no evil, there is nothing but blind, pitiless indifference, and you know that. You know that. Morality according to Darwinists, morality is an illusion. Is an illusion created by our genes to help us survive. The reason why I'm talking about Darwin is because Darwin is the person that atheists look to when it comes to evolutionary theory. And what do we find today? And what do we... Okay, what's evolutionary theory got to do with atheism? Okay. The gentleman asked, he asked the question, what does evolution have to do with atheism? Let's answer his question. He asked, what does evolution have to do with atheism? I will give one answer. I'll give one answer.
What's gravity got to do with atheism?
The best-selling atheist book in human history was The God Delusion. And the central argument of the God Delusion was based on the fact that Darwinism shows that design is an illusion. Therefore, God almost certainly doesn't exist. This is known as the central argument. The central argument on page 156 to 157. I did actually. 156 to 157, you find the central argument. It's called the central argument for a reason. And it says that God almost certainly doesn't exist based upon evolution. So what we find, atheists want to run away from the bloody history of the 20th century. They want to run away from the poor intellectual history of using evolution to undermine God. They don't want to own up what we want to do. I do not run away from the Quran. I do not run away from the Prophet, peace be upon him. I do not run away from the teachings of Islam. What we find amongst atheists is they continuously run away from their own belief systems. Now going back to what we were talking about earlier, Mansoor, you started this by talking about design. The fact that design exists in the universe and this is a sign of God.
So I want to really bring people back to the central point. The reason why you are still not a Muslim, not a believer in God, it's not because of lack of evidence for the existence of God. It's not because there is no evidence for you to see and observe and understand and appreciate. It's your blind ego. You see within yourself and within the horizons. Evidence everywhere. For example, I want to highlight this point. I want to highlight this point. When the Quran says, "Abillahi shakkun
You're arguing for theism, not for atheism.
Why did Allah, your creator,
Must be created by
make
creator.
this
That's
point?
religion. That's theism.
Why? Why is it saying there can be no doubt?
Islam.
How
Islam
can there be a
does not
doubt?
have a monopoly over
Why
it in
so?
any way, shape or form.
Now
Many
here
religions,
Allah Azza wa Jal has said in this ayah,
many
"Fatir
created
as-samawati
stories.
wal ard." Allah is bringing the evidence directly. Is there doubt about God? He is the creator of the heavens and the earth.
A
So
God,
Allah-
not
and what is
necessarily your
contained.
God.
And Fatir,
Many to
not
choose
just
from.
only creator, and actually
not
as
an
well
argument
bringing
for
the
Islam.
natural
It's an
disposition
argument
of
for
everything
religion.
within this universe that He has created, which means there is a unique design. There is an intelligent design that Allah Azza wa Jal
Not
has
very good
created,
design, though,
which
is
makes
it?
everything
Not a very good
survive
design.
and makes everything
Backache,
has its
varicose
own place
veins,
in this
Eyeballs
earth
that
and
are
in this
misshapen,
universe.
so we need to put pieces of
So,
glass in front of our
when
eyes.
the evidence
Such
is
an
in front
imperfect
of you,
design.
when the
Why is it
evidence is in
cocked
front
up?
of you, this gentleman asked,
Why am I short-sighted, man?
This
Why am I
gentleman-
short-sighted?
this gentleman asked, what about other gods? Can there be more than one God?
That the one God might be different to your one God.
Can there be more than one God?
I don't believe there can be any gods, but if you
Okay,
want to
so
play
let's
the
go back to
story...
the
So he is an atheist.
So let's go
The
back
whole-
to the question.
I'm an atheist.
the whole-
Make me a communist.
So let's return to the
Clearly.
question. Why do you deny and reject the evidence in front of you? I want you to tell me.
Because it's not in front of you.
I want you to tell me.
Not in front
Why
of you.
do the
You
cells-
talk about creator design.
You're
Why
not-
are we so imperfect?
You are not
Why are we so
engaging with the
imperfect? Why is
evidence.
his design so broken?
Why are you not engaging with the evidence? Here is
Because
my
it's not
presentation
there.
of the evidence.
The evidence is not
evidence-
there.
Brothers and sisters, I'm going to ask one simple question to the man who
Not a
says,
simple question. I want to
he says the human body is imperfectly designed. But I want to ask him a simple question and see if he has an answer. If we are the result of a blind naturalistic process, how is it that we have 3 billion letters in every single one of our cells that functions to keep us alive? He doesn't have an answer to that.
But not perfectly.
Aha!
Aha!
He said not perfectly. Not perfectly. Now, my question is, and he will not have an answer,
Well, don't be
what does a perfect body look like?
One that doesn't suffer from pain, disease, just from our natural form.
Okay, wait, 1 second. Go on.
Something that doesn't get lower back pain simply because it's bipodal, because it's on 2 feet. Something that doesn't get varicose veins simply because it stands up on 2 feet. Something that doesn't have misshapen eyeballs that it can't see without science to correct its sight. Something that doesn't have that has offspring that's born with cancer quite often. You can't listen, can
Okay,
you?
so
things that can
what the gentleman is pointing out, is essentially this. What is 1 second? What is he pointing out? He's pointing out we have what he calls imperfection. But imperfection is built upon an assumption of specification. For example, God says in the Quran, whoever he wills, he gives males. Whoever he wills, he gives females. Whoever he wills, he makes barren.
Whoever he wills, he gives
barrenness is part of the design of God. Because this life, we have tests. We have tests. And the tests in this life, we get sick and we get cured. So what's happened is this. This gentleman, he cannot deny design. He cannot deny design. All he can do is deny his specification. For someone to call something bad design, there has to be a design specification. I want to give one example. This gentleman is somebody I believe I interacted with him in the past. I believe he studied biology when he did biology. So I want to ask him a question. The question is this. Francis Crick is someone who discovered the structure of DNA. Along with Watson, yes he did. He won the Nobel Prize. He won the Nobel Prize for that. And when it came to him explaining the origin of life, he wrote a book called Life Itself. And in that book, he said, there is a possibility that the life on Earth has been designed by extraterrestrial beings. So what? Did you hear that? So what? And so I'm about to educate you. I'm about to educate you. Francis Crick did not believe in God, and you know that. Francis Crick wasn't an atheist. No, he did not believe in God. So when we have a smart scientist who is inferring design, but the design that he's inferring is the design to aliens, then when you have somebody who comes to Speaker's Corner and cannot articulate the most basic inference, what we have to realize is someone like Francis Crick was pointing out something that biologists see all the time. In fact, the most famous Darwinist in the world, Richard Dawkins himself, says that the design as a research tool is so good that it's used by biologists. The illusion of design is so strong that it's used. So you cannot deny there is design. What you can do is deny an inference. You can say this design is illusory, or this design is due to aliens, or this design is due to God. What you cannot deny is design is a research heuristic in biology.
But I wanted to mention something.
Yes.
Because he said something, and actually we need to point out about it. Because he said something. He said, why does he have a short eyesight? Yeah? It's not about what your eyes, it's your heart.
No, I'm sorry, my heart
Let's
doesn't influence
continue.
my eyes.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. But
Although high blood pressure...
By the way, so he said this, why some babies born with, for example, leukemia, why some babies they're born disabled with cancer, all of these things. The question is this the default thing for a human being?
It's a very
that they
common,
are always
very
deficient?
common.
Or the default thing what they are?
Oh, so it's
that's
not a
something.
default.
And here,
Is God responsible
and
for
here,
it or not?
By the way,
if it's not a default,
I'm
who's
addressing-
responsible?
By the way,
for it?
I am addressing-
God is responsible in all cases.
I am addressing
All
your
cases.
point. I'm addressing it. Now here,
Bad design is based on
we need to
specification. You didn't give a
understand
specification.
that
So
the
why
default-
does the bad design go wrong,
Okay.
Sultan? Sorry,
No.
I haven't finished. Well, don't stop interrupting him,
You
man.
see,
It's an
you
assumption.
see,
Finish.
I tried. Listen, I tried. Listen, let me try to respect you.
Okay. Thank you.
So here, when you are saying it is not the default, first of all, that's one thing. The other thing, you said here you have a short eyesight, yes?
Yeah, well,
As
self-evident.
well. But who made the glasses? People,
A
correct?
scientist.
Scientists. Do they have intellect to design it?
So you want to compare?
There we go.
You see
Don't
here?
interrupt!
No, there we go. There we go.
That is my
The
point.
person who wants to deny design. Bad design is based on an assumption. And the assumption is that we were created to be beings that live forever. Beings that don't get cancer. Wait, one second. All human beings die. All human beings die. Someone can say, why do they die? It's part of God's design that we don't live forever. What you consider to be bad design is an assumption of the specification that you have in mind. No, bad design. No. Whatever you point out, design is based upon a specification. I will give an example. If you walk past a building and that building is crumbling, someone may say it's bad design. But if that building was designed for 30 years and it stands at 50 years, it is not bad design. Human beings were designed to get sick. They were designed to be healthy. They were designed to live. They were designed to die. They were designed to be fertile. They were designed to be barren. What you consider, because that's part of the test of life. Because that is the test of life. Because that's the part of the test of life. God says in the Quran, He teaches us that good and evil is part of the test of life. However, the common denominator, whether you say good design or bad design, is still design. You cannot get away from the design inference, which is why even atheists point out there has to be an explanation of design, and design is still used as a research heuristic.
And as well the design of our intellect, which is able to produce and to do things to support people who are less able. That's a design within our nature that made many people to be scientists, to invent things, to create cure for certain diseases. That shows God, this is part of this life. God designed us in order to produce this, to do this. This part of the design. And if it wasn't a design within our intellect, we'll be unable to do it. And just like other animals, by the way, just like other animals, the one who's born less able is being left to die. But we are designed as a human being. We are designed as a human being to produce and to do things in order to support. It's part of our design. It's part of our design. It's part of our nature.
Design function.
So I want to
Really dumb thing.
I want to address one of his points just to illustrate to the audience.
They're loving it.
No, I really enjoy it.
I want to address one example this gentleman brought, just to show you how there are people who don't use
Long time no see. How are you doing? You looking good?
neither do they understand science,
Steady.
neither do they understand
good guy.
philosophy. The example of pain. The gentleman brought pain as if it is some kind of flaw in design.
Oh, I love pain, don't you? Who loves pain
What
here?
this
Put up your
gentleman-
hand if you love pain.
What this gentleman doesn't realize
No.
is this. Pain is an effective
Is it a theory or a fact? I'm
mechanism
not saying they're
built
right.
in
I'm just saying
for
it's a
a
fact, that's their
good
opinion.
intent,
And that would be
purpose
stupid to
and
ignore it.
benefit
That's all I'm saying.
within the creation. And let me give you examples
seen
to
someone in
illustrate
immense pain?
the point.
You
Illustrate
just
examples.
bang your thumb with a hammer.
Let me-
Have you really seen someone in pain?
If you were
Bed
to listen, you will learn. If you don't listen, you will never learn.
Are you going to listen?
So,
I have something to say.
so where?
So let's talk about the pain of cancer.
the pain-
Someone
Finish.
dying
Stay
for
right
years in immense
Imagine,
pain. Not talking about banging your
imagine.
thumb with a hammer.
You had no pain receptors in your body.
That wouldn't be good.
Imagine you had no pain receptors in your
I
body.
understand why we have cancer now and people die. It's excruciating.
So this gentleman agrees having pain receptors
It's advantageous
to
us
feel pain is advantageous.
to our survival.
Unlike this atheist.
Unlike this
He's
atheist,
an atheist too.
why did you go over there
Is
and
he a
debate
communist
this in
as
yourself?
Honest
Hello,
No, this is more fun.
thank you.
We're piling them up so we can burn them.
And then debate between yourself.
Joe,
So this is what it is.
Joe.
Pain is a blessing. Because if there wasn't the pain, imagine now you put your hand in fire and your hands got burnt and all of it's totally destroyed.
Value of the pain of
Let me
back
finish.
pain.
Let me
Just
finish.
constant back pain.
You see
What
that?
about the pain of
Instead of
cancer?
listening, this is what you do. You
Dying,
interrupt and suggest.
excruciating pain.
So
for
imagine now,
something.
your hand totally got burnt and you put it
Oh,
down,
yes,
your
good
hand's
point.
gone. Because you never felt pain. The fact that you have pain, you will remove your hand as a reflex to this pain stimuli. Why? Because you know something is going to be harmful.
So why when
Something
you
is
chop
going
off a
to be
limb do people
detrimental.
still imagine they've
That
got
is
pain in
why
their hand?
the pain response here is saving you from a harm. It is a good thing, an advantage. You're not even listening. It's a good thing. An
You are
advantageous
repeating yourself,
thing.
man, sir. You
So
have to
this
stop
is,
that.
according to people of science, unlike people of Speaker's Corner hecklers,
Oh, I'm not a
there's a
Marxist
huge
communist atheist
disparity
now. I'm a
in
Speaker's Corner
understanding
heckler.
whether pain is a part of a good design or a bad design. Of course, the heckling community in Speaker's Corner, like this
I'll never
gentleman
see him
here,
anywhere else.
will consider as bad design. But the scientists, physiologists, they will know and tell you it's part of a good design.
Bring on that.
Debunked
Bring
and
on that.
refuted.
Oh, well done. Well done, man, sir. Would you like a coffee?
We want to end here. We want to end here.
Oh, no.
Thank you all
Why
for
are you
listening.
ending? Bit of
If
rain.
you have any other
Bit of
questions
rain and
about
they run.
these two gentlemen, anyone else have any questions? We will take those questions and then we
May I
will.
ask you a question? The gentleman was talking, referring to people have various gods. Why the God, if he's in Islam, is the God worth of being worshipped, and we don't worship other God other than Allah? Maybe the Sheikh or any of you.
Now here Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran, firstly, Allah
Don't you
sent
know?
the prophets and
Don't you
messengers.
know? I think you know. don't you?
First
It's
of
playing a
all-
game, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
first
to
of
get
all,
that
Allah
clear.
has sent the prophets and messengers one after another. All of them calling for one God, to worship one God and not associate with God anymore. Those are all of them. Now the people later on, those are the ones who changed the monotheistic faith of the human being. That Allah says in the Quran, كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. The people used to be one nation, meaning they used to be monotheists. And Allah has sent the prophets and messengers to them to affirm that faith in them. And later on, when they've been deceived by the devil and they went astray from the guidance of Allah, then they start worshipping other gods. And they start worshipping other gods. And that's why Islam, Allah, which means all the religion of all the prophets and messengers is Islam. Allah stated in the Quran, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ. The religion of Allah Azza wa Jal is Islam. So Allah sent the prophets and messengers to restore this monotheist faith in the hearts of the people again and again. And as soon as when the people go astray, then they start worshipping other deities. Not just that, even nowadays, people who call themselves atheists, they are worshipping their own desires. They are worshipping, which is
I
they think
pray to
it
my
is an
desires
ideology.
tonight.
It is a faith that they believe it's not a faith. It's a faith. That's how it is.
Can you please explain what is worship and why all worship is this only for Allah alone?
Okay, the meaning of worship,
Have you been
as
given these
one of the
questions?
scholars said, everything that Allah loves and pleased with, from the actions or from the saying, internal ones and external ones. That means that the things that we do, everything in our life, it has to be an act of worship. Us being good, even following the morality of Islam.
Even this
it
is
part,
worship.
it is part of the worship of Allah. Even today, I'm talking
Worship
to you.
the reality.
Is worship Allah.
Yeah.
Tabarak wa ta'ala. We're worshiping Allah.
Thank
not
goodness
reality.
for Sunday.
Worship Allah. Tabarak wa
Almost
ta'ala.
like a
Here
drug,
to
isn't it?
preach
Yeah.
Islam.
Almost like a drug.
We are here
I
to
don't wanna
preach Islam,
bust
and
into
that's
your
part
thing.
of it. And
If
the
you
meaning
wanna-
of worship is a broad meaning.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not-
I do that,
It's not
yeah.
restricted to
On
the
camera or
direct
not?
act of worship
Yeah,
like
off
the
camera
salah
if
and
you
other things. It is something broad meaning.
don't-
Jazakallah khair for the question.
I don't want to suddenly dive into a...
Do we have any other questions?
We're gonna
from
end
the
here. We're gonna
audience?
end
Got
here
any
now.
more? Or you done?
Tony, do you have any questions?
I
have
do.
any
I,
questions?
I do want to discuss that actually. That's good.
I just want to put on the record that
Which record?
the National Academy of Science has stated, and I've got the printout of its report here, its personal opinion, rightly or wrongly, I'm not saying they're right, but as a point of fact, their opinion is that they consider evolution to effectively be a fact, okay? Now they may be wrong, but hopefully we can agree that if I'm providing factual evidence, that is their position, and their credentials are that they are,
I know who they are.
okay, you know, just so your viewers know who they are, they've got 2,493 members, last check, including 190 Nobel Prize winners, yeah? They're hired by the American government, who you might not like, fine, on a budget of $500 million a year to give objective advice to the American government, yeah? So these are some of the elite scientists who my friends here will quite often quote when it comes to talking about the Big Bang and theories in physics, which they're happy to embrace. And their,
One second. Let me finish. Let me finish.
their considered opinion is that evolution is very highly likely. Now, they may be wrong. I put it to you, my most hopeful view on this is that evolution, that God designed us through evolution, and that there's no necessary conflict between the facts of this and your view of religion. I'm hopeful of that.
Would you say it's very clear from what they're saying here
Yeah.
that they are not speaking about Darwinian evolution, but evolution apart from Darwin, as in a broader concept of evolution?
Will they say, to quote from them,
They say evolution is a fact.
is evolution a fact? The theory of evolution explains. I don't think we're going to get to read the whole thing now, but I will if you
No,
want.
no, okay, but I know. Sorry, one
You've read it already.
second.
Related
Okay.
to the subject.
Yeah,
Just
but I
one
don't
question
wanna read the
as
whole
get
thing.
out.
Yeah.
Just one question. Who funded these researchers?
Oh, they're funded by the
What
American government.
objective? As we clearly know, the one who sponsors a particular area of research has an agenda.
For sure.
So we need to make sure that they are neutral. But you can carry on.
Okay, but
I
what-
tried to make it clear they're hired by the American government to advise the American government on a number of different issues. Yeah.
Yeah, but look, I think it's worth you reading at least the first 2-3 lines.
I have read it.
Okay,
I just
no.
don't- I haven't
I'm
read it for about 6 months or so.
Okay, but I actually don't disagree with this.
Okay, this is progress.
Okay,
You
so
don't disagree with
but
that.
what I want to make clear, and I think this is very important. Even before this, before you came, we were speaking about how Darwinists use evolution to undermine God.
Some of them do, and
Well, the most famous, like Richard Dawkins, one of the most famous Darwinists in the world, if not the most famous, his entire book, The God Delusion, the central argument is to use Darwinism to undermine design.
sure.
You see, so what I do is I make a distinction between evolution and Darwinian evolution. Now, these guys, they had a court case, you know about the Dover case.
No, go on.
Okay, they had a Dover case about intelligent design, the National Academy of Science, and you had Michael Roos as one of the witnesses, and you also had William Dembski, Kenneth Miller, all these guys, they all came, right? Long story short, this is, because near the end of it, they say about should creationism be given equal time,
Yeah.
right? Intelligent design was ruled to be pseudoscience at that time,
Okay.
during the Dover case. Do you know why it was ruled to be pseudoscience? And why they call it pseudoscience?
Go ahead.
They actually ruled it by definition. They said science only deals with the natural, the observable, therefore, and is based on methodological naturalism. Therefore, intelligent design is pseudoscience.
Okay, I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay, good. You don't agree with that. But just to point out,
I don't agree with intelligent design. I do agree with evolution, but I don't think the argument you just put forward is a cogent argument.
No. It's their argument
Yeah,
that they used.
I think
Yeah.
their argument isn't cogent on that point, and I'd agree with you.
Good. And The reason why that argument's not valid is because there is no clear-cut distinction between science and pseudoscience. There's a huge demarcation problem and there's grey areas. Now, some things are clearly not science. For example, astrology. We know that that's not science. Some things clearly are science, but it's a grey area, like evolutionary psychology. There's certain things there. There's certain things like Freudian theories. Are they science or not? However, the way intelligent design was pushed out by the National Academy of Sciences.
I'm not defending them for doing that.
No, but I want to point that out because when you handed this to me, I looked at the thing right near the end where it said, why can't we teach creation science in my school? Now, this is the thing I want to point out, right?
Okay. Can I preface this?
Sure.
You are slightly shifting the goalposts, I think. So I know that some of the materialists, some of these scientists, the hardline atheists, I think they're disingenuous in their arguments against religion, and I can agree with you on that. We don't need to spend too much time. They're a disingenuous representation from materialist scientists with regard to arguments about God, and I think Dawkins is somewhat blinded, okay? And in his recent debate with Jordan Peterson, I think you can see where that clear division is.
Or even Dennis Noble.
Yeah, okay, I think Peterson is cutting to the heart of the spirit of religion, and I know you'll have differences of opinion with him, but you'll agree that he's cutting to a metaphysical dimension that Dawkins seems to be immune to.
Yeah? I wouldn't say immune to, I would say his epistemology doesn't recognize it.
Yeah, okay.
Because he's fundamentally a follower of scientism. He says God is a scientific hypothesis.
Yeah.
So when you have that kind of blinkers on, you're not going to see what Peterson's saying or other thinkers are saying. And to be honest, this is not everything Peterson was saying is things that Keith Ward would have said to Dawkins years ago.
Okay.
I mean, these are things which are really well known, but the reason why I pointed this out is because the National Academy of Sciences, what they did in their argument against intelligent design was unethical.
Okay, maybe it was. Maybe it was.
And I'm trying to explain to you why it was unethical.
Okay.
Now, I know you disagree with intelligent design, but on the minimum...
I think intelligent design, if you dig deeper, may be compatible with Darwinian evolution if you allow a linking kind of thought process, yeah? If you make it black or white, it has to be one or the other. But if you can see a level of symbolism maybe in this, then maybe it's compatible.
So I wouldn't
and a lot of religions have embraced that.
So I wouldn't even say symbolic or metaphoric. I would say even if you accept the evolutionary story by natural selection and design, they are compatible. There's somebody I'm interviewing tomorrow, and I've interviewed him in the past. His name is Erki Kajonin.
Okay.
He's written a book called Evolution and Design, right? And what he does is he shows is you can have a total naturalistic story, yet it doesn't undermine the design argument. Which, by the way, that's...
You profess he says that. I can't accept it just because you say it.
No. What I'm saying is, people can make the argument that design is compatible with evolutionary theory. I don't deny that.
So. I think that's the way forward.
Yeah.
So but I like Adamic exceptionalism. I think Adamic exceptionalism is an excellent bridging mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've had Professor Malik, and I've seen you guys have chatted with him.
That's
he's heading in the right direction.
No, see, that's a particular element. I want to look at the broader picture first, because I think what's happened is this. For many, many years, Darwin's views were misrepresented. Because Darwin's views were, you can be an ardent evolutionist and you can believe in God.
Yeah, because he was brought up in a time when belief in God was the default. He was a Christian himself, and he had to grapple with his faith in the face of his understanding of evolution, yeah?
It wasn't exactly like that.
Just roughly and broadly what I'm saying has some...
So, you see, the motivation wasn't due to his own religious belief. It wasn't. Because he was a deist. He didn't believe God intervened. When he published The Origin of Species... Right, you're a deist, right? So you know deism states God doesn't intervene. It's not theism.
Yeah.
So for Darwin, what he had in his mind was that you can have a naturalistic process which unfolds, right? And that process is something which can dovetail with the belief in God. Now, he actually went further because he had a friend called Asa Gray, who's an American biologist who believed in God. So Asa Gray actually was pointed out as an example by Darwin of somebody that can be an ardent evolutionist and a theist. Now, what did the neo-Darwinists do? The neo-Darwinists used evolutionary theory, one, to show it to be true in a way that is not in line with the evidence. That's the first thing they did. Secondly, they metaphysically abused it. They used it to push atheism, right? And this is something that they've been doing for decades, and the God delusion I pointed out is one example, but there's many other examples where they did this, and we can't ignore that.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
You know much more about the facts of the history of this debate, okay? What I'm trying to do is distill them down to an evaluation for a layman's point of view. I'm a layman, okay? Now, I disagree with your conclusion, even though I know you know more facts, because knowing facts and being able to evaluate facts are not the same thing.
Okay.
What we're evaluating here is a process. I'm not responsible for all the abuse of the system by other people in the past. As a layman, what I see is, I'm explained a process called evolution, which seems fairly simple. A being, a life form will tend to reproduce a copy of itself, except occasionally there'll be a mutation. If there's a mutation, it will have a new adaptation, a new characteristic, which may fit with the environment or not. If it's advantageous in the environment, it's more likely then to be passed on to the next generation, then that becomes the new default. It's a very, very simple mechanism. And you agree that it works with regard to other species, yes?
I don't actually.
In the lab with fruit
so
flies and all of this stuff.
So I'm going to explain to you something which is very important. As a supplementary process, as a, if you like, tertiary even process, we do observe basic things, which is that if you have a particular mutation which can facilitate an adaptive feature, then you're more likely to survive than not. That's clear.
That's clear?
There's no denying that.
Okay, so far so good. So where do we differ?
So the difference is to use that to say that explains the biosphere. That's simplistic.
Yeah, it's a more ambitious claim.
Okay, not more ambitious. I would say it's an almost it's almost like using the smallest element you have and to go to the massive unknown without looking at the complexity of the world. So it's completely unjustified.
It may be that.
But let me explain to you why I believe that's the case. In 2016, this is where I use examples of others who've said the same thing. In 2016 at the Royal Society in London, the same place where Darwin in 1858 presented...
Again, you have so many more facts.
No, but I'm explaining to you what happened. You had two groups of scientists, one led by Dennis Noble, right, who is a non-neo-Darwinist, evolutionist, and you had Darwinists. And they were arguing about this basic point. Is the simplistic notion of natural selection plus random mutation sufficient to explain all of life? And some eminent scientists believe the answer is no. Other scientists believe the answer is yes.
The line for is it abiogenesis, yeah? I mean the transmission, the
Sorry, say that again?
transmutation, is it abiogenesis?
No.
The jump from the material structure to the organic life structure.
No, they didn't debate that.
They didn't debate that.
See, Darwinism begins after life.
Okay, I mean the Miller-Urey experiment, yeah?
No.
Mystery seems to be in that terrain.
No, yeah, so they weren't talking about that. They were talking about the mechanism, right? So Dennis Noble, James Shapiro, Carl Woese, and these are big figures. I'll give you an example. We have archaea, we have bacteria, we have eukarya. We have the domains of life, 3 domains of life. Any biology textbook, you're going to see these 3 domains of life. Carl Woese discovered archaea. So he is, if you like, one of the most important scientists of the last 100 years. He did not believe in natural selection plus random mutation is sufficient to explain all of life. So James Shapiro wrote a book called Evolution, A View from the 21st Century, and he's somebody who is a naturalist, but he doesn't believe in neo-Darwinism, right? Carl Woese said about his book that this is a game changer. So here we're talking about heavyweights.
I'm not going to dispute any of your facts, but I want to contextualize this.
No, but I want to contextualize it from the sense that not all scientists believe natural selection plus random mutation is sufficient for life.
I never said they did. What I'm saying is it would seem to be a point of fact. You've mentioned 3 or 4, quote, heavyweights, yeah? And you think they represent significant evidence in your favour. I'm just going, it looks like there's 190 Nobel Prize winners who are also heavyweights, who if they were here now and I asked, do you believe in Darwinian evolution, would say yes, and the reason I think that is they published to that effect. Now, as a layman, which is what I am and what most of your viewers are, when I'm trying to work out where does the truth lie, if I was trying to be objective and honest with myself, I think I would be unwise to conclude that the 4 heavyweights that you listed completely obliterate any consideration I should give to 190. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just trying to, methodologically, I think there should be an element of doubt in my mind, if I'm being honest with myself.
So,
yes? Is that doubt a reasonable conclusion for an objective person?
I'll actually amplify what you're saying. I won't disagree. I would go as far as saying what Dennis Noble said, which is that 90%, above 90% of scientists do not believe, do believe neo-Darwinism is sufficient. Now, I actually...
Thank you.
Well, no, that's
no,
not...
it's good that people know that as a point
of course. Okay. One of the arguments that was made during the discussion between Richard Dawkins and Dennis Noble, and Dawkins made this point in his new book, which was just released, The Genetic Book of the Dead as well, which is, if Dennis Noble is right, then all of the scientists that have been working for decades and publishing papers in genetics, in zoology, in biochemistry, all this stuff, they've all had the wrong assumption, they've all had the wrong framework. So I agree with you.
You may be correct, but as a layman, that's another assertion which is being made by another expert in the field, in the face of hundreds of experts in the field who would disagree with that assertion. So as a layman, I've still got to conclude it's undecided at best.
Let me explain something. I'm not actually disagreeing with what you said. I'm actually amplifying it. I'm saying, you pointed out 2,000 something scientists. I'm saying the vast majority of scientists believe in neo-Darwinism.
Right.
I actually don't disagree with that.
So in the face of that, why are you 100% confident? Can we get religious for a minute? I'm hoping it's something more than just going, because I've accepted that the Quran is the literal truth, that's my predicate, and anything which contradicts it must be wrong. I'm hoping that's not the crux of your argument. I'm hoping that you can accept, you're 100% rejecting neo-Darwinism for another reason apart from
Okay, so but let me just explain something. Dennis Noble believes in human chimpanzee ancestry. He believes in all species came from one origin. So when I'm talking about the third way of evolution, Carl Woese, James Shapiro, Scott Turner, or any of these guys, they all still believe all of life came from one cell, essentially, right? They don't deny universal common ancestry. So this discussion is about the mechanism of evolution. It's not actually about universal common ancestry. However, the question that you've asked is a good one. Why am I 100% certain? And I would say this, Tony. I'm not 100% certain.
Wow.
I'm not.
That doesn't mean that you're wrong.
No, but
okay, I want to be clear to you.
Sure. But I am 100% certain about one thing. I'm not 100% certain the third way of evolution is correct. I am certain 100% that there is significant challenges to neo-Darwinism which have not been addressed, and therefore the jury is out. I believe the jury is out. So, for example, Dennis Noble said neo-Darwinism is dead. I don't believe neo-Darwinism is dead. I believe the evidence for neo-Darwinism is dead, but I believe it's alive in all of the biological circles. I believe sociologically the theory is far too strong to be upended by Dennis Noble in the third way of evolution. Right. So,
but do you think it's also reasonable for a layman? For a layman. Cheers. I was going to. I'll tell you in a minute. We're chatting right now. It's reasonable for a layman to say the jury is out.
I believe that too.
Okay. Therefore, it's reasonable for a layman to have doubt as to which of the two beliefs they have. So it's reasonable for the layman to have doubt that evolution is intelligent design is the truth.
Okay. So
doubt in that. And we know we're heading towards Shirk.
Okay.
Is it Shrek or Shirk?
Yeah, Shirk.
Yeah.
So So let me just point out one small thing, which is.
I'm not trying to smash the religion. I'm just trying to, stress test.
Yeah, no worries. Let's stand here. So just to end the point, because we're going to have to move.
Okay.
The third way of evolution has nothing to do. Sorry, we're just filming here. Give us 1 second. The third way of evolution has nothing to do with intelligent design. Neo-Darwinism has nothing to do with intelligent design. Proponents of third way of evolution and intelligent design are both critics. Proponents of neo-Darwinism and the third way of evolution, Dennis Noble, James Shapiro, they're all critics of intelligent design. So this debate.
Okay, but I think we're not micromanaging different strands. It's like arguing about different strands of democracy. Yeah, you can have first past the post. You can micromanage the argument about the strengths and weaknesses, but the basic principle stands, and the basic principle of evolution, neo-Darwin or otherwise, is one of non-intelligent design through random mutation and then adaptivity to the environment.
So see, this is where I disagree.
But would these 190 scientists disagree?
No. Okay. So no, I think we've convoluted 2-3 different issues here. Let me just explain something. This is something I cover in my new book, which is going to be published by the end of the year, right, by Sapiens Institute. Neo-Darwinism and the third way of evolution both do not undermine the idea of design. They both do not. That is not a scientific position, it's a philosophical position based upon where you start off from. It's got nothing to do with the science itself.
I understand this is your assertion, and now I'm saying if I ask these 190 scientists if it does or not, they would disagree with you, yes?
I don't.
Doesn't mean they're right, but as a point of fact, it's very likely they would disagree with you.
So this is where it gets a bit confusing. Francis Collins is part of the National Academy.
There's 190 people here.
Yeah, but I'm giving you an example of one that I know.
If I ring the NAS and I ask them, do you agree with Sabur's assertion? I assume they would say no.
What's my assertion?
Your assertion that creationism is compatible with Darwinism.
No, it wasn't creationism. I didn't say creationism.
Intelligent design.
No,
intelligent design is compatible.
So let me say the statement, and you can ring them and check it.
Please. Hey, I'll write it down.
Yeah, sure. Oh, you can listen to the recording.
Okay, good.
The belief in design, the belief in God, the belief in intelligent design is not a position which is undermined by neo-Darwinism or the third way of evolution. That's an independent philosophical position that has its own arguments, so people may believe it or not believe it. Science itself is silent when it comes to these metaphysical issues, which is the position that you would have if you take the philosophy seriously. Wow.
This isn't working. I had a bigger problem with this one.
In fact, they say it too.
Forget it, we'll get worse.
There's a section there where it says evolution doesn't undermine God in the same paper you gave me.
I think you're trying to reframe it as a metaphysical question. And,
it is though, it is.
Well, if you ask, is God involved, it becomes a metaphysical question. But you can ask the question of evolution purely within the framework of biology, which is what the Nobel Prize-winning scientists are attempting to do. Yeah? And within that framework, it's a very cogent interpretation, I think. They may be wrong, but you're asserting that they're definitely wrong, or are you asserting they might be right? Or are you asserting there's no contradiction?
No. So let me just make it clear. They believe intelligent design is pseudoscience based upon bad argumentation. I already spoke to you about that earlier. But no scientist in the world can use evolution to say that design is an illusion unless they're using a metaphysical framework.
You can't prove there's no design, but
using science.
You can't prove there's no design using science, but you can argue as to the mechanism via which design was achieved. And it's possible that design was achieved via the evolutionary mechanism which they proposed. It's also possible it was achieved via Adamic exceptionalism, which has also been suggested. So these are three possible mechanisms. Number one, God magically goes, let it happen, and it happens. Number two, you get God going, I'll put a process in play of Darwinian evolution and I'll let it do the job for me. Or number three, Adamic exceptionalism, which again God puts in play. These are three viable mechanisms, and the point of conflict here is between which of them is the most viable, yeah?
Okay, so let me, just to summarize, none of this is a scientific discussion.
I don't agree. Some of this is. Sure.
Okay, so the premises may involve a scientific fact or scientific theory, But the arguments are being made within theories of metaphysics. So
I'm not trying to do that though.
No.
In that there's you and me talking now, and I can't be responsible for what all these other people think. I'm trying to think for myself. I want to be honest and objective and look at facts. When a bunch of people who are expert in an art and they know more than me say something, I think I'd be foolish to completely ignore them, okay? And I don't want to fall into an argument for authority. I don't want to slavishly follow them. On the other hand, I can't completely reject them. I'm presented with a theory of evolution which to me seems thankfully simple. The idea of mutation and adaptation to the environment is a very simple guiding
But Tony, I think you're convoluting something here. That's one theory of evolution. That's the Darwinian theory of
I know,
evolution.
the Darwinian theory to me at least seems simple to understand and endorsed by a wide body of highly esteemed scientists. Therefore, I can't eliminate that possibility. What I'm left with is, if they're right, if I embrace that they may be correct, is that compatible with a God, an interventionist God, a theistic God, and it may be.
So I think we're converging on a point. Science, we're going to pray there, yeah. Science has nothing to do with this, except as an input in an already, in different metaphysical frameworks. So, if you start off with materialism, you import the science to come to a different conclusion. Then if you start off with theism, you come to a different conclusion using the same science. So science is not the adjudicator here. There is philosophy being done. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. It depends on the question you're asking. If you're asking the question, did God create man? Then you're asking a question which has got a metaphysical dimension and a biological dimension, yes? But if you just ignore God for a minute and look at the process in the lab of how did these organic beings come to be the way they are, you don't have to engage God in the question at all. It can be a purely biological question. Yeah? Now these scientists, they're not trying to include God in the picture. They're trying to eliminate all of that, not because they necessarily believe or disbelieve in God, but because God is not a scientific issue, it's a metaphysical issue. Their job is to deal with the physics and the biology. In their attempts to do that, they've drawn certain conclusions which seem cogent, I think, and they seem cogent in the lab, and the idea that the conclusions they've drawn can then be 100% dismissed, which some people assert, seems premature. I think clearly as a layman I have to adjudicate there is grounds for doubt. Now doubt to me is not a problem.
Okay, so some things that you've said I don't disagree with, but there is one thing I disagree with if you meant this. The National Academy of Science, it represents 2,000 whatever scientists.
Sure.
But let's just say it represents 200,000 scientists or 2 billion scientists, whatever it is.
2,500, I think.
Okay, whatever it is.
Okay.
Let's just say they represent all scientists that ever existed.
Okay.
That entire monopoly, if they are, you've given them the credibility in terms of the Nobel Prize and all these things, they can still come up with an argument collectively as an academy which is false. And that is the argument that they came up with in the Dover trial.
Okay, so it sounds like the authority that I'm quoting from has made invalid arguments in the past, and that should be on the record, if you're correct.
And the invalid argument is based upon?
I don't know.
Design.
Hang on. Just because they've made parallel invalid arguments doesn't mean that their core precept is invalid.
So I'll give you an example.
I'm happy to say they're not perfect. I don't think they're sacrosanct, but I do think if they were here, they would endorse Darwinian evolution.
They would.
As a point of fact, you agree they would.
Yeah, but I didn't disagree with that.
I'd be stupid to ignore them.
I didn't disagree with that.
And I believe your viewers as well would be unwise to completely ignore the input of people who are that expert in that field.
Okay,
yeah?
so
I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but I don't think you can immediately
this is the academy that you're referring to, National Academy of Sciences, okay? Now, their definition of science that they used during the Dover trial, okay? That definition of science that they actually used was a definition which precluded design, precluded it entailed naturalism. And the problem is that intelligent design was challenged by this academy by definition, and that is something which doesn't make sense.
I would agree with you that they made a mistake, because there will be a metaphysical dimension. If you accept Darwinian evolution as a biological mechanism, it raises the question, could that mechanism have been initiated by God? And the answer is potentially yes. If so, no problem anymore. We no longer have a conflict between science and faith, which to me is the ideal. Yeah? That squares
I'm
the
trying.
circle.
I'm trying to
Well, I
understand.
don't-
I'm trying to understand if you got my conceptual point, which is that an entire academy can be wrong in the way that it puts forward a particular conclusion.
Yes, they're fallible as well. I'm not saying they're not fallible.
And I gave you the example of the fallibility, which, by the way, just to let you know, there's a guy called Martin Brody. I interviewed him about the Dover trial, right? I interviewed him. He's an atheist. He's somebody who wouldn't agree with me on many different things. However, he put together a paper alongside two other academics in which he was basically arguing that intelligent design is basically, according to them, invalid, false, whatever. He believes it's false, but he thinks the way that it should be shown to be false is by making different arguments to the arguments that were made at the Dover trial.
Right.
So he basically puts together 5 arguments that were used in the Dover trial, and that those arguments are not valid because those were definitional. And he believes that there's a better way of showing intelligent design is false than the way that was employed.
He may well be right. Look, I don't expect the...
By the way, I don't agree with him
Okay.
on everything, but I do agree with him that they were wrong in terms of the way that they used the Dover trial. They used the definitional way of getting rid of intelligent design in the Dover trial.
Fair enough.
And that is, by the way, that's a big mark against them.
Okay.
Even I would say...
Hang on, the mark against them is that they may have used spurious arguments to reject a metaphysical position that actually is beyond their jurisdiction. Yeah?
Not a metaphysical position, a philosophical position,
A philosophical and metaphysical position beyond their
because even the judge at the trial, he had no training in the philosophy of science, yet he's calling things pseudoscience.
I get it. So look,
Yeah, I mean, okay.
if they fall short within the arena of metaphysics, they may well do.
But can I ask you?
That doesn't mean they're falling short within the arena of biology and physics, does it?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you there. I actually agree with you. But I just want to end up on one small question.
Well, hang on, could we please let us do Adamic exceptionalism a bit? Because you guys have discussed it as well.
Sure.
And I think it's really constructive for your viewers to know it's on the menu.
Sure.
Yeah? Because no scientist could disprove Adamic exceptionalism ever. I believe if I took the 190 Nobel Prize winners currently in the National Academy of Science and said to them, can you disprove, is there anything Adamic exceptionalism which runs contrary to your beliefs about science, they would have to go no.
Yeah.
Okay?
Do you have to do that one, or can you do something more interesting?
No, this is great. The idea that you can bring together the two communities, the religious community and the mainstream scientific community, on a point where there will no longer be conflict, is potential progress.
Okay. So
Yes?
with Adamic,
More rights, maybe.
okay.
Well, yeah, I consider that progress. I consider discord to be less progress than synthesis.
So I wanna go over 2 ways Adamic exceptionalism can be done.
Okay.
And I think it's important to make the distinction. One distinction, and you're right, scientists can't disprove it. It's in line, like.
Right, whereas if I raise Darwinian evolution, they will go, this is definitely the case. It's not creationism. But if I go Adamic exceptionalism, they'll go, fair enough. We can't argue.
But I do want to add something. If Darwinism,
Yeah,
okay,
actually, can we quickly explain what Adamic exceptionalism is?
Sure.
Adamic exceptionalism is the idea that, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Darwinian evolution, the standard model which is proposed by people, even like Richard Dawkins, is basically correct. That is how it works. But simultaneously, Adam and Eve were miraculously created by an interventionist God in the Garden of Eden, metaphorically.
under the radar way.
Under the radar, yeah. That Adam and Eve were miraculously created. They had kids who then interbred with the Darwinian kids, which means we are now all the result of both Adam and Eve's genealogy and Darwinian evolution, yeah? Now, I don't happen to believe that's true.
But by the way,
However, I do recognise that as a concept, it's bulletproof to me being able to disprove it.
Okay.
And no scientist could disprove it.
Sure. But just to add, that's one version of Adamic exceptionalism.
Okay.
That
But
there
it's
was
a cogent one, yeah?
there was interbreeding. Yeah, you described it correctly.
Thank you.
There was interbreeding between Adam's children and Neanderthals.
Yeah.
That's one version.
So we're now all children of both God and Darwinian evolution. Yeah?
Well, we don't believe in children of God, but I'll
mean it
explain.
poetically.
Yeah.
You do believe in like speciation?
Okay.
I do.
However,
Sorry, you can-
there's another version of Adamic exceptionalism I was thinking about, which is
Sorry, I will get you in there. If I can.
that those Neanderthals or other Denisovans or whatever it was, all of them go back much further to a common ancestor who was Adam. That's another version.
Hang on, you're talking about an Adam who doesn't just go back 7,000 years or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. No, I mean,
This sounds like a metaphorical Adam, not a literal.
no, it's not metaphorical. It could go back 200,000-300,000 years. Before the Neanderthals,
Okay,
before the
but did that
Denisovians.
Adam arise as a result of an interventionist God clicking his
Yeah.
fingers?
But wasn't there
Actually, sorry. When it comes to the creation of Adam, we do not say we know the mechanism. So, for example, when you say, I as a Muslim, I have to be clear that God created Adam without predecessors. However, I can't say in this way or that way all the time. I can't say
We
anything.
agree.
All the time frame.
It's a miracle. Assume it happened and it's a miracle. But it's in no way incompatible with the Darwinian thing. Adamic exceptionalism
Okay.
does synthesize the two.
I just thought of something. Let me guess your intention behind this. You're basically saying to me that Shuaib's view is harmonizing,
Yeah.
and I'm still challenging Darwinism. Why am I doing it? That's your question, isn't it?
I'm trying
Okay, sure.
I like
Can
harmonization.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you're a nice guy and
Sure,
you like harmonization.
sure.
And there's too much conflict in the world,
Sure.
so let's just explore.
Sure.
Just
So
by
let's-
exploring an idea, you
Sure,
don't have
sure.
to embrace it, but you can explore.
Sure. But let me explain something. Like, Shuaib is a very good friend of mine. We've known each other for years, but we actually disagree on certain aspects of evolution, right? No, actually, not disagree on certain aspects of evolution. We disagree on approaches.
Okay.
So, I believe intelligent design is science. He believes it's not science. That's a fundamental difference.
You believe intelligent design is science.
Is science, and he believes it's pseudo. He believes it's not science.
I'm with him. It's not.
Okay,
But
but
you're
I
drawing
believe it's
on-
science.
As everything
Okay.
you said before, you're drawing on metaphysical assumptions.
Yeah. Okay. So
And
let
therefore
me.
it's not physics,
But let
it's
me.
metaphysics.
Yeah, it is metaphysics. But let me point out some
Then
other
it's
things.
not physics. If it's metaphysics, it's not physics.
No,
surely.
some things are on a gradient, but I'll explain that in a second. The other thing is, he believes. So I believe in challenging Darwinism. He doesn't believe. He believes conceptually. His book is about if Darwinism's true. What can we accept? What can we reject? So our approaches are totally different. And we actually had a podcast on this. You can see the podcast. It's quite interesting, right? Long story short, despite what you've said, I still believe it's important to challenge Darwinism.
Okay, I hear it. As a layman, what am I supposed to do? You spend your life reading a whole load of stuff I'm not going to have access to. You've read loads of facts. You've drawn a conclusion from those facts. A bunch of other people who you seem to hold in some regard, because they quote other scientific ideas you embrace, they've looked at the same facts and drawn different conclusions.
But they don't believe in
I'm
intelligent.
sticking in the middle.
Sure. But they don't believe in intelligent design. I want to make that clear. Dennis Noble, James Shapiro, they reject intelligent design.
Okay.
They reject.
But
I mean,
would
they accept common
Would
ancestry.
they accept intelligent design if I said to them that God used evolution, Darwinian
No.
evolution, as a mechanism for it?
They do not accept any of this. They are naturalists.
Yeah.
They believe in the naturalistic program.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But
So
that's their
it-
metaphysical. The minute they reject the idea of God, they're making a metaphysical
Yeah.
statement.
So let me
not a biological
explain.
statement.
I'll summarize
We
it.
agree, it's not
Yeah,
so
sure.
complicated.
So before I
Can
go
you
out,
define what we mean by metaphysics for a minute? I had this discussion with someone before. Because different people mean different things by it, and I mean something quite unusual actually, so I use it in an unconventional sense anyway. What do you mean by metaphysics?
I believe, firstly, there is no clear distinction between physics and metaphysics. I believe there's a gradient, right? There's a gradient. Questions of a nature of ontology, a nature of epistemology, they are definitely philosophical questions. Questions of a purely...
Metaphysical questions.
They're metaphysical questions. But questions of a purely observational perspective are purely scientific.
Yeah, natural science.
Yeah.
So we
So-
have natural science which studies objects
Yeah.
and energy, things with matter and
Matter,
energy.
space-time,
Matter
yeah.
and energy,
Yeah.
and we have metaphysics which studies things
Ontology,
which don't just
theory of
contain
knowledge,
matter
yeah.
and energy.
However,
Okay.
I believe there's a gradient. It's not clear cut at certain points.
Oh, I've got a clear-cut line.
For example, the beginning of the universe is physics and philosophy. It's both.
That's a very wide assertion. Can I give a counter where it's simple? I think there is a very clear-cut line. If you have matter or energy, in other words, if you're made of stuff, I'll call it stuff, because matter and energy are the same stuff, E equals mc squared. If you have matter or energy, you're an object. If you exist ontologically but you don't have matter or energy, you're metaphysical. I.e. qualia would be a good example. Yeah, qualia would seem to have no matter or energy.
Okay.
So it's real, but it's a metaphysical
No,
thing.
so I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
Okay, go on.
Qualia is probably the worst example to use.
To me, it's the best example to use.
Okay, so whether someone looks at qualia, okay, are brain states equal to mental states from your perspective?
There seem to be correlations.
Okay.
Yeah.
That correlation
Yeah.
is not sufficient to rule out anything non-material. Correlation of neurons, a correlation of brain states to mental states doesn't justify physicalism.
I'm not trying to justify physicalism. I'm
No.
saying qualia transcends physicalism, hence it's metaphysical.
Oh, you believe it transcends? Okay.
It seems to be where else can I categorize
Okay,
it.
so-
I
so-
clearly can't
okay,
put
so-
I can't
sorry.
put qualia-
Sorry.
Qualia is my hobby horse and I went too far for an evolution.
Sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you said qualia. I thought you said brain states equal mental states. I misunderstood you. Okay, fine. So you're the same boat as me.
Okay, let's backtrack into metaphysics.
By the way, just to let you know, you know the main guy behind consciousness for the past couple of years. What's his name?
The guy who died.
No, not the guy who died. Robert Lawrence Kuhn.
Oh yeah. Actually, I don't know much about him. I know the name. I've seen him on a couple of
Sure.
things.
So he's the guy who's written a paper called "The Landscape of Consciousness." Right. This paper was published this year, and it's 175,000 words. So it's all of the views of consciousness, right? And he's not a materialist, right?
Yeah.
So we're in convergence from the perspective that qualia is a good example of something. However,
Intangible, physically intangible, but irrefutably real.
yes. However, it's also an example that there's a gradient between the physical and the metaphysical.
Okay.
Qualia's in the middle.
Right. I think you're using the word gradient in a way I don't understand. I would say it's a clear line. If it's physical and I can measure it, then it's not metaphysical, it's physics. If it's not measurable but real, it must be in another dimension, yeah? Which is therefore a metaphysical dimension. Now, my experience of qualia, is clearly doesn't contain matter or energy, so it's not within the domain of physics, but you can't pretend it's not real because irrefutably I feel stuff, yeah? Therefore, there is a dimension to reality, ontological reality, which transcends physics. That seems to be logically irrefutable, and that's the platform from which most religions, I would argue all religions arise.
Sure.
Yeah?
It seems to be.
So far we're on the same page.
Yeah, we are. But I want your view on this. So, I hosted a discussion between Michael Roos and Stephen Law on consciousness, and one of the views that was discussed was illusionism. That consciousness is an illusion, and qualia is simply a physical phenomenon.
That's a meaningless assertion.
Okay. Good. I agree with you.
In fact, Sharon Lanny has said that. He said consciousness is the one thing which calling it an illusion doesn't in any way undermine it, because it's not consciousness, it's not what it diagnoses, it's that it exists at all. So it doesn't matter if it's an illusion, it's still inevitably so. Yeah? To call it an illusion is meaningless. If I say that bush is an illusion, yeah, I could then touch it and discover and crawl through it and change something. But my consciousness inevitably is what it is. So you can call it an illusion, you're just tarnishing it. It doesn't mean anything. It's real, irrefutably real. The word illusion means nothing in that context. So you can't dismiss consciousness.
Yeah. So
We agree.
I totally agree. I just wanted your perspective on this because I think consciousness is the mother of the problem, the mother of the issue when it comes to naturalism. I think it's the one thing that naturalists find most hard to explain.
Agreed. The mystery of consciousness is an ongoing enigma. I suspect it will be forever. My thesis is that it's the one which religion has consistently been addressing, the dilemma of being a conscious entity.
Which, by the way, Michael Roos, when I asked him earlier on this year, he said it will never be solved by science.
Can we move that way a little bit, just so we're not getting so loud? Yeah.
He said
No, I don't think it will either.
Yeah.
It can't be dealt by physics, but it can't be refuted ontologically. And trying to square the circle will be the eternal quest of human beings. But we need to do it as cogently as possible in a way which does service to both dimensions of reality, the intangible and the tangible. Backtracking into evolution, currently there seems to be a bit of a mismatch between those two views. I think anything which helps to harmonise them is more constructive, which is why I promote Adamic exceptionalism just as a thought experiment, even though I don't believe it's
so. This is the only, I guess, the only point where we disagree is I believe it's still very important to challenge Darwinism head on. One of the metaphysical abuse that the Darwinists have done. Two, because of the ethical implications of Darwinism.
Oh, okay, now we're getting deep. Okay, the ethical implications of
But the
Darwinism,
metaphysical is more important than ethical.
to me, the ethical is more important.
Because they're linked.
Okay,
Once
fine.
you challenge the metaphysical, you challenge the ethical.
Can we focus on the ethical?
Sure.
Because ethics is the thing I like. Ethics and qualia is kind of where I'm at. Okay. Prima facie, Darwin's theory of evolution seems ethically abhorrent.
Ethically?
Me, abhorrent.
Okay.
To me, it paints a very dark picture of the human
Nature's
condition.
red in tooth and claw.
It would seem nature raw in tooth and claw, look after number one, don't worry about anybody else. It's the antithesis of what most good religions, including stuff in the Quran, teaches, So you can see where on the surface there'd be at loggerheads. But I don't think you should give up on it at that point. If you dig a little bit deeper, maybe it's possible to synthesize them. More work should be put into trying to do it. Dawkins himself, in his documentary series he did, in his second episode, and this was about 20 years ago, I think, I remember him watching it, he went, things are making such a clear-cut argument for tooth and claw evolution. How is it the species hasn't wiped itself out? How is it that somehow we seem to be progressing? Broadly, we're becoming a little bit more ethical, a little bit more humanized, and so on. And he acknowledged that somewhere in the mix there must be a counterbalancing positive force, because his basic premise is so bleak, we shouldn't be doing as well as we're doing. So he acknowledged, in a sense, he's missing something. One theory he had was that evolution would originally be that you favoured your own gene pool, So you favoured your family and your nephews and your nieces, whatever, over other gene pools. But that mutate, which gave you empathy for your particular peer group. But at some point, a random, or divinely inspired, mutation occurred, where that instinct to empathise with your peer group happened to extend then to the wider community of human beings themselves. And when that happened, that was the evolutionary leap into us being fully functional ethical beings, So even within his own mechanism, he could see how we could evolve through mutation to be the ethical paradigm that your religion embraces, and I would advocate. So why can't we should give some ground to that instead of just attacking it? Because it might be a way of synthesizing the two worldviews.
What I would say to that is that the idea that Darwinism can be synthesized with our humanity goes back a few decades to W.D. Hamilton. And W.D. Hamilton, and then afterwards Dawkins popularized it. They had the theory of kin selection to explain our humanity. And then afterwards, reciprocal altruism was another theory. And then, like you pointed out, the expanding circle. Okay?
Sorry, do you want to bring Jamie in?
No, you pointed out Peter Singer's expanding circle. I've spent years studying the ethical arguments they've come up with, and I disagree with all three of them. So
Sorry,
kin selection, reciprocal altruism, and the expanding circle, I think are flawed theories.
What do you mean by reciprocal altruism? Because to me it sounds like empathy and it sounds good. Does it
So
not mean
reciprocal
that?
altruism
It means
is
what? You scratch my back, I scratch yours.
yeah, for adaptive benefits. Okay?
Yeah.
So I disagree with them heavily. If you wait for me a few minutes, I'm just going to pray,
Yeah.
and then you carry
No,
on.
of course.
I'm just going to pray and then.
I'll pray with you.
Can you? I'll keep it. Shall I keep it on? Ah, okay. Thank you.
Can I follow your lead?
Yeah, that's fine.
You have enough speed?
Yeah.
Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Hamida. Allahu Akbar. 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 Allahu Akbar.
Yes, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, you become rich. After 5 years, 6 years, you fall.
Allahu Akbar.
That's American isolation. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. American isolation will result in the collapse of the collapse of the European collapse of the currency.
Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm from the States and I'm Uyghur myself, so Allah Mubarak for
Oh, Uyghur,
for your-
okay.
Thank you very much.
the voice that you know like speak upon our people.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we're finishing. What's your name?
Muhammad.
Muhammad. Let's speak after this, inshallah.
Russia will take over.
He's a Uyghur.
He's a,
Uyghur.
okay.
From China, because I do Uyghur activism.
Oh,
so.
they've been oppressed, yeah?
Yeah. So going back to kin selection, what was it?
In selection. You were talking about reciprocal altruism. Three interpretations of the theory you don't like, one of which was reciprocal altruism.
Oh yeah, who was with us? Where's he gone?
Jamie was over there. Yeah, he's over there.
Okay. Yeah. So
Can I nail it down to empathy? I think the key is empathy, yeah? Something made us empathic. I think the essence of ethical goodness is empathy, which is when you're sensitized to what's going on inside another subject apart from yourself, yeah? It's not something all animals have, but we seem to have jumped the shark on it in a very positive way, yeah? Dawkins seemed to be pointing out how through a scientific lens, a biological lens, that could have happened through mutation. Religion seems to show on a narrative level how it could have happened.
Okay.
I'm interested in how much you can synthesize this.
So before we synthesize, I want to point out what are the three things which Dawkins, Singer and others are pointing towards, and why I disagree with them. They're basically trying to explain our moral sense from a Darwinian perspective.
Yeah.
And the crux of the argument is we are moral for the benefit of our genes. So the way it begins,
unless God intervened to manipulate the genes to behave that way.
yeah, but obviously he doesn't believe in God. Dawkins,
He doesn't, but I'm not him. I'm pushing the notion.
Sure.
He may have missed
Yeah.
it, but I'm on
Sure.
board.
But-
So maybe God manipulated the genes
Yeah.
to do it, and then we don't have a problem.
but the naturalistic explanation
Yeah.
that Dawkins points out, kin selection is the idea you're good to your kin because they carry your genes.
Which makes sense.
Reciprocal altruism, yeah, it does, but
You
this
scratch
is,
my back, I scratch yours.
yeah, no, that's reciprocal altruism.
Altruism, yeah.
The expanding circle is it just goes wider and wider from the family to the town to the city to the
Which is a
village.
positive trajectory. yes.
Right. However, many philosophers and even scientists have pointed out these theories are flawed because there's recalcitrant facts against them. We, for example, are, and we're not talking about God here, we're talking about the naturalistic understanding. We're good to people that will never benefit us and are not related to us. Now, David Stove wrote a book called...
But I just covered that with what he said. The point was, if the ability to empathize just went rogue, it went off-piste, and suddenly I'm empathizing with everybody, even if they're not in my gene pool, that's actually an ethical upgrade.
So, no,
Yeah,
so
it's thrown free of its origin.
So I just want to point out, because you're a smart guy, you're going to look this up yourself as well.
Yeah.
Philosophers have pointed holes in these arguments. These arguments where empathy and altruism has become a runaway process of
I
itself.
don't doubt they have. It doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean
No,
they're
but
wrong.
I want to show you, I want to summarize what their arguments are, why they disagree.
Okay.
Obviously some agree, some disagree. The best arguments have been put forward by David Stove in his book Darwinian Fairy Tales. What he does is he tackles kin selection and reciprocal altruism because the expanding circle of altruism being a runaway process, it breaks down if kin selection fails because it starts with kin selection. Reciprocal altruism builds on it and expanding circle builds on it. So it's like a Russian doll going back, yeah? So kin selection as a theory totally fails because the predictions of inclusive fitness theory that W.D. Hamilton put forward, they have been shown to have recalcitrant facts. For example, we don't sacrifice ourselves for even people who are related to us, and in some cases we sacrifice ourselves for people who are not related to us.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
No, it is a good thing. But what I'm pointing out to you is the naturalistic Darwinian story doesn't account for morality in that way.
But the narrative I just gave, the interpretation I just gave you,
Your interpretation does.
I'm paraphrasing him, but even if he didn't, I'll give it, okay? Let's just assume it's my idea for a minute. Random mutation takes a raw ability to empathize due to self-interest, and it goes rogue, and suddenly empathy is born universally.
Yeah,
That would be a breakthrough moment, and it's credible and compatible with Darwinian evolution,
That would-
and it doesn't disprove the creationist model.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea, but it's false. That's the problem.
I like that. I've never heard. You don't hear that
Yeah,
phrase
but-
often.
but-
It's a fantastic idea and it's false.
No, okay.
It's impossible.
No,
Really?
it doesn't take off. Okay, now Dawkins himself, in a debate with John Lennox, you know John Lennox?
No, you'd be amazed how little I know about
Okay,
all that issue.
so John Lennox, he's a mathematician from Oxford University. He's a Christian. They had a debate. During the debate, John Lennox showed how the ethical arguments that he was making are flawed. Right? You disagree with that?
So I should explain. This is a friend of mine, Felix.
Okay.
maybe at some point he could chip in if you've got strong things.
I think John Lennox is an absolutely ridiculous person.
Okay, hang on.
I think he's completely intellectually compromised.
But let me point out what he said, and let's see if you disagree with it.
Do you want to come
Right?
Sure.
In fact, can I just, before, hang on, seeing as I've introduced you guys, can I just quickly, because Felix may not know, we've chatted a lot, we got on really well, I'm trying to keep it as
Sure.
constructive as
That was me coming in at a ridiculous level.
Okay.
No,
If you want to
lower
tone that one
my
down a
energy level.
bit, that would be cool. And then, because he's very bright and he does a lot of philosophy, and
Sure.
so we can
Sure,
have a
sure,
conversation here from everybody's point of view. Go
What
for it.
did John
So,
Lennox
so the point that John Lennox said in a debate with Richard Dawkins was about Dawkins' statement that we should rebel against our genes. And what Lennox said is that conceptually, how does that make sense that we rebel against our gene? What is it in us that actually rebels? So the argument was about whether we are supposed to dance to our DNA according to what Dawkins writes himself in River Out of Eden and other books, and how it is that we can rebel against our nature when we ourselves can't be a separate being from our nature. So conceptually, the argument of rebelling against our genes is incoherent. That's what Lennox was saying.
But don't you think we're what makes unique as humans part is that we are aware of our nature?
So say that again?
We're aware of our nature in a way no other animal is. I mean, you can point to maybe like dolphins hunt for sport, monkeys make rudimentary tools and can count and stuff. They're pretty intelligent, but humans are way beyond that.
So,
And we have done the research to the point where we've solved the twin nuclei problem. We've split the atom and we've split the cell. We've discovered DNA, and we're still at the foothills of all the research it will take to understand that. Do you not think that our very awareness of it can allow us to understand it and do things to sort of change our behaviour and break through it? Why is that intrinsically not possible?
repeat your last point again, because I got distracted.
Why is it not the case that our awareness of our nature can allow us to transcend it?
Okay, so I would say that's an interesting point, but it's not the point I was referring to in terms of Lennox, because that's conceptually, I mean, you may disagree with Lennox in terms of other stuff. In fact, some of the stuff Lennox said in terms of the arguments that he's made, I think are fantastic. There's other things I disagree with him on, but this particular point that Dawkins made, that we should rebel against our DNA, I think is incoherent. I think Lennox was right about that. Like, what is it that rebels?
Why can't we even trust our consciousness, our bodies, our psychology, everything?
So, as a natural...
Which of course, all those things come from our DNA.
Yeah. So that's the point. That's the point he was making. Yeah.
Well, yes, that is. Of course, that is true.
So you agree with Lennox that it's incoherent? It doesn't make sense.
No, I do not agree.
Okay.
It's incoherent.
So what makes you think that us saying we are, firstly, like you said, we're the product of our DNA,
yes,
and then saying we should rebel against our genes?
Okay. So for example,
forget what Lennox says. What I'm saying is Dawkins is incoherent in what he's saying here.
I don't think so. Like we can look at similar cases in the animal kingdom. For example, if you look at like lions, lion kills the other lions, becomes alpha in the pack, has sex with the lioness, has some baby lions, and then eventually wanders off. Comes across another tribe of lions, and wants to make a new partner because he's the alpha lion. He wants to do that. Lioness has existing children from a previous marriage or relationship with the previous lion. What is the alpha lion going to do to those children? He's going to
kill them.
He kills them, right? This has been documented several nature films because he doesn't want them to remind him of the other lions, right? So that is and you can see that in other sort of similarly tribal kind of mammalian species, hunter kind of predator kind of species. So presumably some of that DNA is in the human genome at some level, right? Do humans go around, if they have second, third marriages, they kill the children of their wives from the previous marriages?
No.
Not in general, no. So is that not an example of where we can transcend our own nature?
The evidence suggests that we have transcended.
So look, I think there's a misunderstanding here. we both agree on the fact. The theory behind the fact is what Lennox and Dawkins were disagreeing about.
Yes.
So Lennox was pointing out God as the cause of our moral sense. Dawkins was saying we rebelled against our DNA,
Yes.
right? Now, so what you've articulated here, we don't disagree on the fact. The point is, the concept of us. Now, here's something I do want to point out, and I said this to you earlier. Kin selection, reciprocal altruism, and the expanding circle. Those are theories that I disagree with. I believe are false, but they're coherent.
Yeah.
I believe they're coherent.
They're
However,
coherent.
what Dawkins said about rebelling against our DNA is incoherent.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Still not.
So I'll explain why. I'll explain
Can I
why.
chip in on why that may be wrong, just as a layman, because you guys are talking a high level than me right
Sure,
now.
sure.
But rebelling against my DNA, surely mutation is precisely what that would be. Mutation will be the thing when you are rebelling. You have an existing paradigm, which no, it can't change its nature except for mutation, which is the rebellion you're talking about, which creates the upgrade. That's what evolution speaks to.
Okay, so that doesn't.
Which is how that works at the level of natural selection, but now it could happen even faster.
Okay,
now we're
but
starting to develop gene editing technologies like
No, but
CRISPR.
there's a problem here.
What if you could edit your own DNA?
Our-
Surely you could change your
Our
DNA.
our DNA today came about, according to Darwinists, by random mutations
Yes.
being selected. Adding random mutations to that process doesn't make us more moral, right? It doesn't solve the problem. You're just adding more of the same thing. If DNA is something to be rebelled against, how DNA came about to add to that process.
No, sorry. You're not rebelling against DNA, you're rebelling against the paradigm that DNA is instated. That's not the same thing.
Okay, so
there's a pattern of behavior the DNA instates, but you use the DNA then mutates and creates a new pattern of behavior.
Okay, so
you can transcend your previous behavioral pattern. That would be the theory, which would account for male lions eating other offspring, whereas we wouldn't.
No, but that's not what even Dawkins was referring to.
To some extent, I don't want to defend other people's opinions.
No,
I'm trying to defend my own.
okay, but
Yeah?
the conversation started off with why that is incoherent. Okay, so let me just explain and summarize, because I'm going to make it quick, why I believe that's totally incoherent. And later on we can get into the coherent things, kin selection, reciprocal altruism, and expanding circle, which are coherent, but I can show that they have major flaws. Okay. Now, when it comes to that idea of rebelling against our genes, Lennox points out to Dawkins, what is it within us that actually rebels? Now, if you're a naturalist, you're going to be wedded, most likely, especially someone like Dawkins, to some form of monism.
Right.
That the mind is the brain at work. That's it.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, it's incoherent to say rebel against your genes. Secondly, the other point is, why rebel against your genes? There's two problems here. One is the origin of the rebellion. The second is, why follow that imperative? Why not accept the genes?
Why?
Because
Conceptually-
I might think that the genes are incentivizing us to perform actions which I think are immoral, and I would like to not take those.
But that's circular.
Why is it circular?
It's circular because you want to be good, but I'm saying, why would you want to be good in the first place?
That's my base assertion. I'm saying.
Yeah, but okay, but what's the justification for that?
What's the
you
justification
can't
for
assume.
wanting to be good? That at some point I have to have a base assertion, right? You can't expect me to keep it for it to be turtles all the way
Okay,
down.
but Darwinism has programmed us to be selfish. Why are you going against that state?
But we
So
do.
yes, it has. But
Oh, thank you
I
for
can-
admitting
I
that,
can-
by
I
the
can
way,
decide-
because a lot of people
Yeah, of
just
course,
don't know
that's-
that.
But I
That's
did.
the whole point
we
of the
just.
selfish gene. That's the whole point of that book. Yes, of course I agree with that. But just because it has programmed us in that way does not necessarily mean we have to be that way. We can decide with our free will. You believe we have free will, right? To be different and not constantly murder and rape and steal and lie our way out.
Okay, but there's a gap between the nature and the actions that you think are correct. So, for example, if
Why does this have to be intellectual? Why can't I just decide and assert with my consciousness and free will.
Because it's not coherent from a
Okay.
materialist perspective. Because if you think the materialist level
Right.
is dictating the cognitive level, then you can't
Well,
step
I-
out
I-
backwards.
You said it better than that's what I was trying to articulate.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
okay, my counter position is then you're to me,
Can you
you're
re-
strawmanning to an extent because I'm not a materialist. Okay, you're attacking the views, the logical consequences of people who are materialists, and you're correct. But I'm not. I've got a more nuanced view.
No,
Materialism might be
by the way,
correct,
by the way,
and I don't think either
by
of
the
us
way,
are.
just to
Neither
point
of us
out,
are materialists.
can you repeat that again because you articulated
sure
it?
I can.
Okay,
Just-
but that was good. That was really good.
No,
That was
usually I
good.
fumble.
Okay, so what you said is if we were programmed and even our consciousness ultimately started off with that DNA.
If the mind is purely caused by the brain, so if the material brain purely causes the mind as like an epiphenomenon, yeah?
Yes.
byproduct, yeah, then it would be incoherent to argue that we could.
That's
use an
the
act of
point I was
will,
making.
Which is what you're suggesting.
That's
to
the point I was
supersede
making.
it. Okay, but
I'm not saying you're incoherent. I'm saying Dawkins is incoherent.
unless
So do you agree with that?
Okay, I would, unless there's a feedback loop, and Karl Popper and people like that have argued there may be a feedback loop. If you watch the recent debate with whoever it was, I can't remember. Whoever it was, forget it. I think Penrose and Adamic, anyway, Penrose and analytical idealism, Bernardo Castro. They both argue that the function of
Idealism.
Bernardo
Okay.
Castro-
Do you
They
believe
both-
in that?
I tend to keep about 3 or 4 possibilities on the board. Okay, materialism is one possibility I'll keep on the board, but I don't want to be anchored to it because I'm also panpsychism. I think we both think is also potentially true, and analytical idealism.
Okay, so can I just add something?
So there's at least 3 modal.
So I just want to. It's very important to clarify definitions, as you know.
Okay.
Why did you make a distinction between panpsychism and materialism?
Because in materialism, the mind would be caused by the brain. In other words, whereas
It's emergent.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure emergency. It's just a causal relationship. Maybe emergent, but it's caused by it. Yeah. Whereas in panpsychism, the mind would be a property of the brain, and being caused by something is not the same as being a property of something. For example, if you've got a red car, the redness of the car isn't caused by the car. Whereas if I paint a car red, then I am causing the redness, yeah?
Sure.
So the relationship is different in the 2 models.
Sure.
Now, if
Can I-
all matter has an inherent element of qualia to it, a latent element, which is the premise of panpsychism, then it's a very different universe to explore,
Sure,
and it may be coherent.
but some materialists, the reason why I'm saying this, some materialists say the universe is made of 4 fundamental building blocks: time, space, matter, qualia.
They acknowledge qualia, material.
Yeah.
They square that circle.
Yes, see,
Crazy.
the reason I pointed it out is because this is a fringe view in materialism.
Okay.
Some materialists say we can accept qualia and still be materialists. We can be panpsychists and materialists.
You think they're wrong?
That sounds weird. I think time and space are emergent properties, so I don't think they're fundamental.
But that's because you don't believe we began off with consciousness. That's your assumption.
What do you? When did I say that?
You say you believe consciousness is an emergent property.
No, I didn't say that.
Or what did you say then?
I'm open to the panpsychist view as well.
We're
Okay,
open to
so-
multiple.
So you can be
The point with being open to multiple conflicting and competing possibilities is I'm sure we're not anchoring ourselves into a singular position. I'm not pinning my flag to the mast, which you can accuse of that's that non-committal and whatever. But we're just humans in this crazy big universe. Of course, I don't know how it all works.
Right.
And
We're
you don't.
testing
And you
each
don't.
But-
And you don't
but-
either.
but
no one does.
But I do want to say one thing, which is quite categorical. I think materialism is categorically false.
Okay. Explain why.
Well, we spoke about qualia earlier.
Yeah.
That is the clearest evidence, because if we go back to Descartes' dictum, I think therefore I am is the only thing he could.
I am is
Yeah. Well, we can translate that to the modern day. I'm conscious, therefore I am.
Yeah.
Right? So, if consciousness, and I believe it has, we've argued for it for enough decades to know this now, if consciousness cannot be explained from a naturalistic way, then materialism must be false. And I say that categorically, by the way.
Strong argument.
It is a
However,
strong.
there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of with your philosophy, Horatio, okay? I understand the limitations of my mind and I should have respect for the unknown unknowns.
That's known as mysticism, by the way.
Okay, fine. I'm into mysticism. I'm a deist, mystic and all of that, okay? And because so much of the data which is gathered from the materialistic platform, which seems cogent, it keeps paying off. The materialists keep delivering again and again in the lab. I would be foolish to immediately discount that platform. I see the
Except for consciousness, which is the base, the basis of everything.
Penrose has, of course, done lots of research into this himself.
So who else, sorry?
Roger Penrose.
Oh, right.
He's worked with anaesthetists on these structures inside the brain called microtubules. You know,
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So, he said things like consciousness is not a computation. And I think Penrose's thinking on this is brilliant, but he's very aware that there is it's almost like the gap between two synapses in the brain, or Adam and God trying to reach out, and they can't quite connect. It's like the missing link, not in the sense of evolution, because there is no missing link there. But
I mean, you've
heard.
heard.
But in the sense of going from, as we're discussing, the pure material substrate of the brain to consciousness in the mind. For now it remains a mystery. Yeah. But I don't think we can categorically say whether or not material science will solve that one day or not. It might be that we have to change our conception of what material science is.
So I just want to add something. You're familiar with the Mary thought experiment?
The Mary thought experiment.
She's in a room that's grey.
Yes.
So we all recognize, whether you're materialist, panpsychist, theist, we all recognize there's a hard problem of consciousness. We know it's there.
Yeah, there's a hard problem.
There's a hard problem. Okay. Now, certain things I think should be ruled out in terms of consciousness. I believe there's two views that should be ruled out. And I want to get your thoughts on this. You may agree or disagree. I believe materialism cannot be justified if the hard problem exists, then materialism has to be false. Secondly, and that's categorically. Secondly is a probabilistic point I'm going to make, not categorical, which is the view of mysterioism, that consciousness is a mystery, our brains didn't evolve to help us solve it. I think that's unjustified considering all of the technological advances that we've done. We've gone to the moon, well, some people believe we don't. We're involved in quantum computing, we're sequencing the genome, we're doing all of this. So I believe it's for materialists, it's a get out of jail card to say, it's too much of a mystery and we'll never solve it. It's better to admit that materialism has been shown to be false.
For the reason I just said, because materialism has delivered so many other positive and coherent solutions to so many pragmatic problems, I don't feel equipped to dismiss it. I see the philosophical problem it presents, and I think you're right.
Can I
At a philosophical level, I totally agree with you. On a more pragmatic level, I've got to give some...
Can I just unpack what you said there and just want your thoughts?
Sure.
Materialism has delivered XYZ epistemically.
Yeah,
right?
in the lab.
Okay.
That's where we go for our data.
I would say it's not materialism that's delivered, it's empirical science.
The methodology,
which people make synonymous with materialism, but it's not synonymous with materialism because under a deistic view, which is your view, right, which is not materialistic clearly, you would still as a scientist produce the same results.
But all the luminaries you've been listing are, you say, materialists, yes?
Which luminaries?
You were mentioning various scientists who were materialists and you were castigating them for being materialists. Yeah? I'm saying I philosophically agree with you, but I can't ignore their expertise to the point where I can completely dismiss their perspective. Given that qualia is such a mystery and consciousness is such a mystery, it may simply be beyond my grasp. I think we're missing something. I don't know what it is.
Okay, I think you missed the point I was making. The point I was making is the successes that you're pointing to are not due to materialism. They're due to empirical science. And that empirical science can be done by a materialist, a theist, a deist, whoever it is.
Okay, ignore what I said about the people you quoted. Fine, I take your point. They've misunderstood the nature of science.
Yeah.
Structured scientific methodology should be more aware of all of the ontological dimensions.
Yeah.
Except that's not the brief of physics. It's not the brief of physics to address ontology. It's the brief of physics to address physics, yes? It's necessary that they limit their purview of ontology to a specific field. But once they start paying out predictively in the lab, I have to give them some due respect. And just because I have a philosophical problem with going, but that doesn't seem compatible with another idea, doesn't mean I can completely reject the validity of their position.
No, so I agree with you, except when it comes to certain fields, right? For example, quantum mechanics, you cannot separate physics and philosophy. You cannot. So someone can look at the same phenomena and come up with many worlds, relational, the Copernican, informational, shut up and calculate, whatever it is. But the fact is, the physics cannot be neatly separated from the philosophy. It's impossible.
Okay, if I were to ask...
Do you mean ontologically and permanently, or just in the present moment of our civilization? Where our understanding of quantum physics is right now?
I mean categorically that problem of understanding quantum phenomena so let me explain, yeah, is joint at the hip, because some problems are not physical or metaphysical, they're both. They're both.
So I can take issue with that. If I were to ask the 190 Nobel Prize winners in the National Academy of Science, I think a fair chunk of them would disagree with you. Example, I think it was Niels Bohr who said, shut up and do the math. Was that Niels Bohr?
Yeah.
There is a view within the discipline which says we specifically must avoid engaging with the arena of philosophy. Philosophers can, but that's not our brief, and it becomes counterproductive when we do. Again, I can't...
I disagree. So look, you can have 190 Nobel Prize winners, or for example, Stephen Hawking, such a great scientist, but they can say something totally false.
For sure.
Yeah, there's no such thing as philosophy-free science. There's no such thing.
Not in terms of its genesis.
No, it's just not possible. So I don't care whether it's 1,000 Nobel Prize winners or a billion. There is no such thing as philosophy-free science.
But why can't you just be patient? Why can't you just wait for the answer to arrive?
No, you can, but while you're doing the experiments, you're working within a philosophical framework.
That might...
Because everything is contained within an ontological and philosophical framework. Yes. It doesn't follow that I have to engage with philosophy in order to understand a lot about this bottle and the water in it. Yeah.
But you do need to do something, which is, say you're studying my brain drinking this water. So I'm drinking it, and you're looking at the neural correlates, and you're trying to link the mental state to the brain states, right? Now, if you're a neuroscientist and you're like, I hate philosophy and I'm just studying this correlation, and if you are to derive from that the fact that materialist, the brain has to be the mind for a materialist. It has to be.
None of us are formally materialists here. It's just we're not dismissing.
I'm giving you a hypothetical scenario. That neuroscientist has the assumption of physicalism. That's an assumption. So whatever science you're doing is going to involve some level of philosophy.
He's not a good scientist. A good scientist would just be going, I'm looking at data and I'm trying to find correlation.
That doesn't exist.
That's a very sweeping statement.
All scientists work within a field that has philosophical assumptions.
Agreed, but the assumption you said they've made may not be ubiquitous.
For example, methodological naturalism is an assumption. That is an assumption. Look, philosophy in the past and science were done together. Scientists in the past were called natural philosophers. Yes. Newton was a natural philosopher, Darwin was a natural philosopher, Francis Bacon was a natural philosopher.
You are victim to exactly the same problem yourself, yes?
It's not a problem. I don't think it's a problem.
It's a problem for other people. Why wouldn't it be a problem for you?
No, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's good.
So why are you talking about it so much?
No, because you said you can do science without philosophy. I'm saying you can't.
I'm not. I'm saying the job of, no, I don't think you can in practice, but you should aspire to do so. A good scientist is trying to eliminate any value judgment beyond physical because he knows his mind will deceive him, yes? He's aware of all of the qualia problems and cognitive bias in psychology, but he's not studying psychology. So the lab itself is designed to minimize cognitive bias so you can be as objective as possible about material data and then find correlations and so that you can make predictions and test them in a lab.
Okay,
and
so
when you do that, you're limiting. You're not interested in does my wife love me? Is that a good film? Is that nice?
No, but
music?
you've
in matter and energy.
you've introduced a term I don't agree with.
Which one?
You said cognitive bias.
Well, we all have a cognitive bias.
What I meant when I said philosophy is included within the science, I didn't mean philosophy comes with the cognitive biases. I didn't mean that.
No.
What I meant is that all scientists work within a philosophical framework.
We agree.
Yeah.
All humans work within a philosophical framework.
It's inevitable, but you can't use that as an argument to trump any. You can't then go, so my philosophical argument trumps your physical argument. Just because all physics is contained within, the whole world is contained within a philosophical and ontological framework, it doesn't mean that you can just ignore any, like for example, the world isn't flat, yeah? I don't care what philosophical position you've got.
That's not a, that's an empirical issue.
I can use this as a practical example. There is no philosophical context you could possibly give which could undermine the assertion that the world is objectively more round than
I agree.
flat. There comes a point at which purely looking at the material data overrides any argument, including any philosophical subtext you may create. The only kind of philosophical subtext you might try and insert into that would be to be a pure idealist and go, there is no world, it's all in my mind.
So let me just explain that the point you made that you cannot undermine someone's science, their physics, by saying, oh, there's a philosophy behind this and therefore my philosophy trumps yours. I agree with you.
Not always. You can use it as a valid tool, but you can't always do it.
I actually agree with you, but what I do believe you can do is point out when it comes to a certain field and someone's coming up with conclusions, you can point out these conclusions are not categorical because there's a physicalist assumptions. For example, for example, Daniel Dennett was and Sam Harris and they're new atheists. They're brilliant in terms of one's good at neuroscience, one's good at philosophy, right? But they're absolutely wrong in terms of at least Dennett's view that consciousness is an illusion. Do you see? Sam Harris comes with neuroscience, but Dennett says consciousness is an illusion.
Which we've already agreed is a totally fallacious statement, because it's real even if it's an illusion.
No, but why is he wrong? He's wrong because...
The reason I just said.
But I'm trying to tease out the reason why he's wrong. And the reason why he's wrong is he has started off with the wrong philosophical assumption, and that is of physicalism.
That may be why he's wrong.
No, that is why he's wrong.
There might be other reasons he's wrong. He's just using bad logic. But yeah, he's wrong. He's clear. We can all agree he's wrong. Consciousness being an illusion is ridiculous because it is what it is. Yeah, when you say something's an illusion, you're effectively challenging that it is what it is. But consciousness, by virtue of I think therefore I am, is undeniably your.
And look, it undeniably undermines materialism.
It's certainly problematic.
No, I would say it's decisive.
See, this is where I think my problem, and I'm guessing Felix's problem with when we talk on these levels with religious people, is your level of certainty. That's the primary thing. We're happy to live in a world where you may be right. I'm not saying I'm sure you're wrong. Maybe you're right.
It's exactly that. It's about disposition and temperament. Like we can have this argument for until the cows come home. But in terms of like how it sits with what we know, what we can know, what we can't know, what we can and can't be categorically certain about, to me, like I'm happy to just debate all these things. Maybe it could be materialism, maybe it could be panpsychism, maybe it could be deism, maybe it could be something else. But you seem to need certainty to some.
I wouldn't say need. I wouldn't say need. I would say the evidence leads to that conclusion. But I'll ask you a question to see if you're certain. Is astronomy better than astrology?
Better in what sense?
Huh?
Better in what sense?
As in, it's a science.
As better at being a science. has has more predictive power.
Okay, why are you being so certain? Why are you no more skeptical about this? You know what? So you're challenging my certainty. You're challenging my certainty, but you're certain.
I'm not.
Like,
I'm not.
we all have certainty.
I'm not. Excuse me. I'm not challenging your certainty. I'm challenging your need for certainty. It's not the same thing.
No, but I think there's a mistake here. It's not the case that I'm in need for certainty, that therefore I find something probabilistic and I make it categorical. I think the evidence makes it categorical. It's not that I'm in need to make it.
How can you? I don't understand how you can make this kind of
about materialism. So,
do you have ontological knowledge of the fundamental rules of logic which underlie the universe?
I wouldn't need that.
So
I would.
why don't you need that?
I wouldn't need that. I wouldn't need that to know that consciousness decisively shows materialism is false. I wouldn't need that for that conclusion.
Okay.
Our third-person subjective experience. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Why can't you just say I'm like 99.999%?
No,
why do you have to be?
Because conceptually, it's impossible for science to solve the problem of hard problem consciousness. My first-person experience of drinking water cannot be broken down from a third-person neuroscientist studying my brain. It's impossible.
I understand the argument. Why do you need to be dogmatic about it? Why not?
I wouldn't say I'm needing to be dogmatic. I'm saying I'm categorical based upon the evidence.
Can I chip in? You're pivoting on the word need, which adds a total tone to this. I think you made a good point to Felix. What our accusation against you is we don't like your 100% certainty. Yeah? We want to have constructive discussion. Your counter-argument to Felix was, is astrology better than astronomy?
Science.
Yeah. And you gave an answer. And he basically
that's a judgment.
and he was asking, are you 100% sure?
No, I'm not. Of course I'm not.
You're
that's
not 100%
sure. It's a judgment. Why is that funny?
That's funny.
I'm making a value judgment about whether astronomy is better as a form of science than astrology.
What's your percentage commitment to astronomy being better than astrology?
99.999.
99.99. Okay, fine. I was just, that was your point.
Okay.
It was a decent.
Yeah.
But would you not go to 99.999?
Why would I ever say 100%?
I mean, for example.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so going back to Descartes, I think therefore I am.
That's a certainty.
That's a certainty.
But that's the only certainty.
Okay.
Everything else is speculation.
Okay.
Would you not agree?
No. Descartes' view was to use that certainty to find new certainties.
No, to find something which was the most probable thing after that. What's the most likely epistemology?
The least shaky foundation.
But that...
He got there because he realised I can't trust anything about the homunculus.
Let me break it from the beginning. If I start off with, I'm conscious, therefore I am. I exist. From that base, I then come up with other certainties, like being a moral human person's better than being an immoral, selfish person, categorically.
That's not a certainty.
Why is that not a certainty? No, it's a certainty for me.
I know it feels like one, but you haven't joined the dots from I think therefore I am, which we all agree is certainty,
No, what I mean...
to being a good ethical person means behaving like this. That's a massive number of steps you have to take. The move I would step out from I think therefore I am into I believe I am in an ordered system. A very, very general assertion like that.
Okay, I think there's something missing here. You believe, or I think you believe, everything needs to be justified. I don't.
In terms of probabilities, the only certainty I accept is I am.
Okay, so I believe in self-evident truths.
Yeah, intuitive.
Self-evident.
I think therefore I think I am is an intuitive.
So I'll lay out some things to you which I don't believe need to be justified.
Go on, please.
And you can use all of these unjustified.
Yeah.
Unjustified doesn't mean.
Yeah, sure. Foundational assumptions.
And then from that you can build a worldview. Okay. So I believe it's self-evident. I'm conscious. I'm alive. Okay. No, we don't have to agree. I'm just telling you what I believe.
No, but if the viewers know that we're at a point of agreement,
I believe truth is intrinsically valuable.
Okay, can we think about that a minute?
No. For me, it's unjust. It doesn't need to be justified. I believe my reasoning capabilities are to be trusted. I believe being a good.
Hang on.
I believe.
I take issue with that.
I believe good at. I'm just look.
I missed the second one.
Let me lay out my most passionate one,
Truth is inherently valuable.
which is one second. One second.
Number two.
Good and evil exists, right? Objectively, eternally. Yes.
So good and evil at the Big Bang.
Yes. Okay. And my ultimate truth that I believe in, which is I believe God exists, self-evidently.
Can I recap
Okay.
on this because it's a huge
Okay.
foundational
Sure.
thing. You
But
believe truth
okay, but
is-
just one last thing. I believe all of these things with absolute certainty, and I believe they don't need to be justified.
Okay, I think you're epistemologically flawed on the level of certainty. I hope you're right about those things,
Okay.
and you may be
I am.
right about those things. All I'm questioning is how appropriate your level of certainty is. Okay? But can I just recap on those points?
Do you agree that not everything needs to be justified? You can have self-evident truths.
I think there's a difference
Only
between
I am.
self-evident truths and foundational assumptions. I am is
An intuitive, unavoidably
it's
true.
kind of the unique one that trumps. I'd say everything else is a foundational assumption one has to make
Because everything
in order to do any kind of intellectual work.
Because everything else you said is an inference. Everything else you said has got moving parts.
No, it's
And
not an
in
inference.
those-
It's not an inference for
No,
me.
it is. It may not feel
For example-
like
May not
it.
be
As a
for you,
point
but that
of
doesn't mean
fact,
it
they
isn't
are inferences.
ontologically.
Okay.
You are saying if this, then that.
I forgot
The
to
minute you're
add.
saying if this,
I
then
forgot to
that,
add. The universe has laws of nature. There's laws
But
of
that's a
nature.
conclusion.
No, it's not.
No, it is. You concluded
No.
the universe has laws. It's
No,
an
it's a
assertion.
self-evident truth I begin off with to make sense.
I happen to think it's true.
How specific?
Can we break down one thing at a point? Do you guys agree or disagree that not everything needs to be rationally justified?
You're running away from.
I'm not, because we build from
We've
here.
been over the I am claim. Doesn't need to find.
I'm saying I've been very, very clear. I'll be very, very clear. Foundation.
But that's not.
Certainty is I am, precisely because it's intuitive and it's not an inference, yeah? Anything beyond that, which has got any moving parts or chronology or if-then statements or syllogisms, is an inference and therefore may be flawed. It may be flawed simply
Not for
because
me.
No, because and that's where we think epistemologically you've gone a bit too far. I'm not saying your conclusions are wrong, but the path you're walking to get there, I think is too epistemologically confident. And in order to be able to debate with other people, it helps if you can meet them at a level where you're slightly less epistemologically confident, even though your conclusions may be correct. That's the ground I'm trying to harvest.
I see what you're saying, but I think you've misunderstood my position. It's not that I've arrived or justified them. It's I just believe them.
I know you believe
Have
them
you,
with 100%
have you
commitment.
always believed these things?
Yes.
Always.
As far as I can remember,
From when you were a baby.
except for the laws of nature, that's maybe something I thought about later.
So you had to think about the laws of nature.
Sorry?
So they weren't self-evident truths if you had to think about them.
No, I think you're mistaking me epistemically not having access to a self-evident truth with the existence of the
Wait,
self-evident truth.
is the
That's fallacious.
Hang on, you're mixing your ontology with your epistemology.
No,
Whether
I'm
or
not.
not the truth
No, no.
is out there. No, you are.
No,
You are.
I'm not.
No, you are. We're
Because
questioning your epistemology, not the ontology.
Because
the thing may be out
we
there,
can
but the
discover
question is how do you
self-evident
check it?
truths.
How can we know they're self-evident? Surely if they're self-evident, we shouldn't need
Okay,
to discover
so-
them. They should
Discovery is a
they
process.
should just be burned into our brains.
Okay,
from the moment we're born.
okay. If what you're saying is
Otherwise
right,
they're not
if
self-evident,
what you're saying
are
is
they?
right, why did it take a lot of labor for? I'm just asking as a question for Descartes to come to. I think, therefore I am. His meditations are, I studied them at university. It's just
Because he
Because
works
we
you
in-
don't-
pages and
because
pages
we
and
don't-
pages
Because
of-
we don't start from the ground level. If we're humans, we're just like individual lumps of meat and electricity and water, right? If
You're
there is-
speaking categorically
If
there.
there is such a thing.
not just
Well, that's an assertion. I claim that we are that, right? And if you want to claim that there is an underlying, singular, intrinsic, ontological truth system that underlies in the entirety of reality, to say that we can just access it as like an individual, like dumb lump of meat that seems.
So, just on your
Seems
statement,
completely
do you believe
incongruent.
matter exists categorically?
I can't say categorically. No, I can't say.
That's fine.
I'll go 99, minimum
Yeah,
99%.
something pretty high.
Is space and time an illusion created in our minds, or does it exist?
Oh, to some extent, yes, absolutely.
Oh,
yes.
you got categorical
is that what
certainty.
No, I said to some extent.
Okay.
How certain are you?
I don't.
It's fair to ask the question both ways.
I don't.
Yeah, we can't say that we don't like 100% certainties and then propose any ourselves
But
beyond I am.
But I'm not sure.
Yes?
I'm not sure defining it on a 0 to 1 continuum is even that.
Oh, I think it's very useful. We can easily understand a percentage scale.
It's going to be
easy,
subjective.
it's quick.
It's like measuring pain, basically.
No. I'll go 99%.
On space and time being, I've no idea. Like,
I've no idea it's a good answer.
Maybe 50, somewhere in the middle, probably.
Okay.
Like, I really
There's a
don't
lot
know.
of querying.
I'm not going to challenge you. I was just asking.
I know. I'm familiar with people like Donald Hoffman, who've done lots of work on the brain, how our nervous system intakes qualia, light, sound, etc. And there are things that happen in the brain, processes that do change the data, the objective external qualia that our body takes in. It changes it before we actually see it in our visual feed or our oral feeds. So yes.
Okay,
in that sense, one of your self-evident truths was, what was it? That are logical, that are interpretation.
Materialism is challenged categorically by consciousness.
No, there was something about our ability to logically deduce things, or our ability to interpret our environment.
Oh, our ability to reason.
Our ability to reason. But if you admit that our brains are to some degree not showing us ontologically true reality, then that means to some extent your brain is not representing reality to you. And there may be all sorts of good reasons for that.
That's an argument.
But then how can you assume that we have perfect abilities to reason?
Okay, but that's an argument.
Our brains have been.
That's an argument in my favor. That's an argument in my favor because we've recognized that we have illusions because of our mind.
Hang on, do we all agree on the distinction?
So it's in my favor.
Sorry, let me cut it.
Why? No.
Because we detected it.
Please let me. Just foundational stuff.
Sure.
Do we agree on the distinction between phenomenology and ontology? Yeah.
Yeah.
There is the world that actually is, and then there is the world as it appears to us. Yes. Good. Carry on. I just want to know we all agree.
Okay. So you said something, and I just want your thoughts. This is just purely a thought thing. We know at least one interpretation, and again, this is a lot of discussion on this, but at least one interpretation, and again, I'm saying this probabilistically, I'm just putting a thought out to you, is that an observation of a phenomena at quantum level, according to one understanding, changes the outcome.
Yeah, it's a fallacious assumption.
No.
I believe it's a fallacious assumption.
No, but that's why I said it's one. It's probabilistic.
Penrose wouldn't agree with that.
That's why I said, right? So it's just a question I have. This is something I heard online. Somebody put forward a point, and I just thought I'd get. I'm neither here nor there.
Okay. Oh, I like that.
This is something I'm not sure about. I'm just putting it out there. Good. If that is to be taken at face value, that okay, an observation has affected an outcome, isn't that inductive probabilistic evidence that consciousness interacts with the physical?
Yes, it would seem to be. Unfortunately, it would, which is why a lot of people are keen on it. Because I'm
keen on it too.
I know, I would love to be keen on it. I heard it and I thought that would be wonderful. Yeah, because it would speak to an emergent property of consciousness, which is in a feedback loop with the material substrata. Yes, unfortunately.
Can I go a little bit wild with this? Because I have a wilder idea. If that is true, and at the quantum level, consciousness can affect matter, then that means consciousness can work at much greater levels. And I just want to go a bit more crazy. Wait one second. Wait one more second. 1 second. As I'm walking down the street, as Rupert Sheldrake points out, and someone's staring at me, their consciousness is interfering with mine, and I turn around and I look at them. I don't know. It's very interesting. I think it's possible.
What you just said would be a logical inference from your premise, but the premise, unfortunately, I think is flawed if you look at the data objectively. Okay. Because what they're saying
I don't think we can say it's flawed. We can say it's probabilistic.
No. It follows. Logically, you're being logical. If qualia, if consciousness actually affects matter by observation, then everything you said thereafter would seem to make sense. But Penrose, and I think a lot of us would go, no, it's a woo-woo thing. What's happening is not that consciousness collapses the wave function, it's that in order to measure the wave function so consciousness can become aware of it, you have to interfere with it, hit it with a photon. It's a physical process.
But the jury's out on that because he's been responded to as well.
The jury is out on that. But
So that's why I said it's probabilistic.
Okay,
But
think
I would wish
if
it
you
to be
look at the
true.
two camps
I would
of
wish it to be
jury,
true.
you'll find, I think-
This is where my need comes in. I would
love
want it to be
we'd
true.
all love it to be true. This is why the spiritual journey of being honest with oneself is being aware of. I'd love to believe that. You'd love to believe that. I think you might want to believe that. You don't care that much. We'd love to believe that.
I'll
But
pray
I've
for
got
that
to be
too.
Disciplined. I'd pray for that to be true as well. But I've got to be disciplined myself and go, I think truth is a virtue. That was your
absolutely.
first premise, yeah? I don't think that's 100%, but I put great faith in the fact that truth is a virtue. You must follow
I didn't say it's a
wherever you-
virtue. I said it's intrinsically valuable.
Okay, I
There's
think
a
it's
distinction.
valuable and virtue. Okay?
Intrinsically,
I think-
because most people say truth is instrumentally useful. I say it's intrinsically valuable.
I happen to agree with you. I think it's a cogent position. It could be wrong, but I agree with you, and I think it's logical.
Yeah, let's end on that good point because I need to catch this guy, Hashim.
This has been. It's so nice to see you again.
Yeah, it is.
Really is. Thank you for giving both of us so much time.
And Felix,
Yes.
very nice name.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that name anymore. It used to be a good old English name.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. That was great. I'm so glad we have genuinely good debates, and I think your viewers will gain from that
Yeah.
one. Where we made it's
I-
good deep stuff.
I think the way we've been discussing for a few years now,
Yeah.
I think both of us are not there to win. We're just there to have a chat.
Hopefully, yeah.
I think that's what people like.
Yeah, I think they like that as well. It's quite
And I'm
rare.
working on a new book,
Go on.
and maybe you're going to refute me on this. And the new book next year sometime is going to come out. It's going to be on Marxism and Islam.
Okay, that's radical. I've never seen. You don't do politics normally.
No, I do actually. I do. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
But I don't do it so publicly.
Okay.
But there's a lot of Marxists here, and a lot of Muslims have fallen for Marxism. So I want to show that it's incompatible to be a Muslim and a Marxist, and I want to show the problems with Marxism.
Ethically, okay. That might be
And
fish
link
in a
it to
barrel for you, I think. That might be quite easy.
and link it to Darwinism as well.
Okay, go for it.
Through not a link. A sociological link. So to do with Stalin and the way that the Marxists use Darwinism and this type of stuff.
I'm guessing you're looking at Hegel, yeah?
No, I haven't read him
He
yet.
foreshadowed evolution, yeah? He foreshadowed the idea of a synthesis and
I didn't know
organic
that.
growing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Marxism
that.
draws on...
Oh, you're helping me now.
Oh yeah,
That's good.
Marxism is drawing on Hegelian thinking, but it's taking only half of it. It's taking the material level as opposed to the psychological level.
Like the zeitgeist, the art of history.
I'm not aware of this stuff.
The
So.
Hegelian,
Don't finish the book yet. No, seriously.
No, I haven't started yet.
dialogue.
This is it's my new. It's my
Dialogue
new.
and the synthesis.
I've just finished my other one, The Death of Neo-Darwinism. So that's going to be published later on this year.
Look, you're a great guy, and you're bright. I, in the back of my mind, being honest.
Can I explain to you what the
This is
book's
gonna
about?
sound rough.
Yeah.
I don't really believe that you believe that you say you believe.
I
I
believe
don't
what?
really believe that you believe that you say you believe, and that sounds terrible. But I don't know the way to put it. because
Okay.
I credit you with being honest enough, interested enough, bright enough.
But I didn't
and
explain to you what the
good
book's about.
intended,
I think
and
you'll
yet-
agree.
I know, but your certainty that no, definitely this is
No,
right
no,
and
no.
this is wrong.
So,
doesn't
so
fit.
the book is not me saying Neo-Darwinism is dead. The book is Dennis Noble's statement, The Death of Darwinism, and I tracked the discussion between Dawkins and Noble, and me and my co-author Salman Butt. We track the discussion and we end the book's conclusion with Neo-Darwinism or the third way of evolution, whether it's right or wrong, all of this makes no difference to whether God exists or not.
No, you're absolutely
And
right.
we're not even saying Neo-Darwinism is dead. It's actually just
Right.
clickbait.
It doesn't make a difference.
It's a
except,
clickbait.
Unfortunately, we were okay with going, we think we've discovered an evolutionary process and there may be a God. But then what we get from your side of the fence is, no, we've got a book that says evolution can't be true.
No, it's
if
not.
it didn't say that,
No,
we wouldn't have a problem.
but the book is not saying evolution is not true. It's saying why Dennis Noble is arguing Neo-Darwinism is dead.
No, I meant the Quran. Sorry, I'm on the Quran now. the Quran would seem to be saying evolution can't be true. Yes?
No, no.
Please tell your viewers that.
No, people know that
I don't
already.
think they're filming anymore.
No,
Whatever.
but
Only if you want to.
no,
but,
no,
so
but
the Quran doesn't say evolution
no,
isn't true.
I've covered this in many different things. So when it comes to biological processes, whether dinosaurs existed or not, fossils, paleontology, all of that, you just discover what you discover.
Great. But that's not what I hear your viewers receiving from anybody. They're not getting that message. They're getting the message. The Quran makes it clear that Darwinian evolution is wrong. That's the message. And that's a scientific assertion. You're making a biological assertion.
No. Going back to Adamic exceptionalism, the point that's being made is that you have to accept. Okay, going back to my discussion, and I'll leave this for the viewers for them to watch.
Is this still filming?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I didn't know.
Shuaib and my discussion on the Quran and evolution, that podcast, that covers all these points that we're talking about what the Quran allows, where it doesn't allow in terms of evolution.
But for the record now then, does the Quran actually refute the possibility of Darwinian evolution?
No.
Including human beings coming from it. I don't want I don't want some trick about other species evolved with human beings. I mean across the board.
Categorically, the Quran, the implication of the Quranic verses is Adam having any ancestors is impossible. Human chimp ancestry, from that perspective, is impossible.
Okay, which
that is a
to
contradiction.
contradict Darwinian evolution.
No.
Yes?
That would contradict the origin of our species, but as Shuaib covers in his book, Islam and Evolution, the other species and the other processes, there is a way of reconciling that.
That is what I just said. So what you guys try to do, so I don't want to generalize about you, but is to go, we accept the mechanism of evolution and that it's applied to other life forms, but human beings are an exception. Okay?
Yes,
in other words,
that's
if I had a camera and I filmed human beings now and I ran it backwards in time, generation, if I was a Darwinian, I believe I would see us slowly mutating back down through the 8 lineage, etc. You don't believe that's true?
Space Odyssey.
You don't believe
No.
we backtrack? You don't.
No, remember your view.
It is a metaphor.
No,
It's a good one.
No, but remember your view of Adamic exceptionalism. That's what the view
Squares
is.
the circle. Adamic exceptions from squares the circle. It means if I follow the camera back, I would find, physically, I would film, going back through the species, a point at which there was Adam and Eve, and they appeared miraculously, but I could keep going back and there'd be humans before them who had evolved through Darwinian evolution. And if I then run it forward again, I would go, but it's not a problem because the two merge when the species interbreed.
No,
and now we're all
so like I mentioned, that's one version of Adamic exceptionalism.
Okay, but that's the one I'm advocating for the minute as being the most intellectually coherent and most likely to harmonise the two sides of the argument.
But why is it not coherent? Why is it not coherent to have the other view of Adamic exceptionalism, which Adam goes back before the Denisovans, before the Neanderthals. So Adam goes back way before any of that.
Before the tadpoles? I mean, how far
not before the tadpoles. Not before the tadpoles. Before. I'm just having. Sorry, I'm having a chat. Sorry, brother, I'm having a chat. Sorry,
I was just asking something.
Sorry, we'll try and get your question in. Okay.
So let me just finish here, then I'll speak to you.
Yeah.
Let's go, no problem.
So, what was my point I was making?
The point is that Adam preceded even the
Yes, sorry. Going back. Adamic exceptionalism 1, Adamic exceptionalism 2.
Okay.
The second version of Adamic exceptionalism, for me, that is a possibility. And that is, there's no interbreeding.
Okay.
Adam is I'm not saying it's true.
Okay, I get it.
I'm not saying it's
That's
true.
fine.
So, William Lane Craig, he takes Adam back to Homo heidelbergensis, I believe.
Okay.
Now, he's kind of interesting because I think his views have changed as well. But he takes Adam back a long time. So these are, I think, interesting perspectives. I'm not tied to any one of them. But what I am tied to...
So you're undecided on these possibilities, yes?
Except for the interbreeding. I don't accept the interbreeding.
William Lane Craig also thinks the massacre of the Canaanites was morally excusable.
No, I mean, I don't believe that because...
No, I know I'm saying you believe that, but I'm saying that to some extent puts into question his thinking.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because
so
this
they're
is...
not related.
I know that they are, but they're not directly. They are
No,
parallel.
but Felix, that was the reason that Dawkins cited not to debate him, and I think that's unfair. Because
I know that.
yeah, because of the massacre of the Canaanites, Dawkins said, "I'm not going to debate such an immoral person."
Well, I can understand. Yeah, I can understand. That's ethically abhorrent to the point when you might not want to talk to the guy.
No, but I don't
it's
agree with
possible
that.
He could still do maths correctly.
Of course. But of course it means that.
But I think it showed. I think it showed on the part of Dawkins a type of cowardice, and I'll explain to you why. Because the same belief that he attributes to William Lane Craig is the same belief that the American creationists have, but Dawkins has no problem going and refuting them. And he's being inconsistent here. You know the museum. I know.
If not that I'm here to defend Richard Dawkins, but I think if I had to, I think it's probably like just a career choice. He's in his 80s, he's 83 now, he's doing his last book tour, he just doesn't want to have this hassle anymore. Yes, back in the day he did all he debates with Ken Ham, did all the documentaries of creators.
That's my point, being inconsistent. He's being inconsistent.
Is someone not allowed to change their practices through their life?
I'm not saying that.
We have to attack him for being inconsistent?
He doesn't have to accept the debate, and he has the right to change his mind. What I'm pointing out is something which another Oxford philosopher, Daniel Kame, pointed out, and is that Dawkins should have debated, and him not debating is basically a sign of cowardice. And I'm not saying that's an atheist philosopher at the same university saying that.
Even if Dawkins is...
He's a coward.
Even if
I would say he's a coward.
Even if he is
and I know you're
a
not
coward
defend
and all of those negatives, it doesn't mean that the ideas he's proposing are false.
Yeah, but they are also false. The God delusion's main argument, which William Lane Craig, I believe the mistake William Lane Craig made, which you shouldn't do, is he published the refutation of the God delusion online before he invited him to a debate. And I think that if he didn't do that, if he just asked him to debate, I think Dawkins might have done it.
Oh, really? Whatever, the mechanism itself seems coherent with the objective data in the lab.
But the abuse of the mechanism metaphysically... No, but look, I'll give you a perspective of, say, Michael Behe. Michael Behe accepts universal common ancestry, right? Like no Adamic exception. He just believes human chimp ancestry.
We all come from light.
Everything. He accepts everything, right? However, he doesn't agree with neo-Darwinism. We're going to finish now anyway. He doesn't agree with neo-Darwinism, right? I reckon what's happened with Dawkins is he's misused his mantle as a professor to push out metaphysical views which the science doesn't support.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's too materialist and I like it, yeah? But it's not his area of expertise and he should
definitely not in physics, definitely not in philosophy.
Yeah? But he is advocating a mechanism which seems to work in the lab for other species. You agree it works for other species. The only point of contention is...
Actually, I don't believe it works for other species.
You don't think the...
I thought you said a moment ago you said it did.
No, I didn't. Okay, so let me just be very clear. I believe Darwinian evolution is the dominant naturalistic theory that we have, the best naturalistic theory that we have currently, naturalistically. But when it comes to natural selection, I am more in line with the third way evolutionists that natural selection plus random mutations is a background process and is not sufficient to explain biodiversity.
But that still means it's a valid process. It just means that it's missing some of the picture.
It's
wrong.
Okay, I'll explain to you what that basically means. And obviously, there's a difference of opinion in third way evolution. Is different ones of them. I'm giving you my perspective.
Do you want to tell the camera what third way evolution is?
Yeah, they basically disagree with neo-Darwinism, but they're still naturalists and believe in common ancestry, like Dennis Noble. So, I believe this is just my belief.
Yeah.
Because obviously they reject intelligent design, I accept it. I believe natural selection is a true process which has been documented in labs, but it's a tertiary process which at best plays a very small role in the evolutionary process.
Wow. Okay, and you believe that a bird, if there was a bird...
Can I summarize it in a sexy way?
Yes, please.
Natural selection explains the survival of the fittest, but not the arrival of the fittest.
Okay.
That's a good one. I need to go because I've been waiting.
Really enjoyed.
But that's a good way of ending it.
Really good.
Yes, really good. Felix,
Great to talk to you.
good to speak to you. I think we spoke well. But I'm gonna start coming more often as well.
Yeah, please do. It would be good.
And I'll give you my book.
I've got your number.
Yeah, but you don't have WhatsApp, so.
I don't have. No, I don't have WhatsApp.
He's ancient.
Yeah, he's a modern guy. You can WhatsApp him. You can WhatsApp him. One day I'll get it. How are you guys all doing anyway?
Yeah, good. Just been traveling around and stuff.
Yeah.
Just go different. I went to Bosnia, I went to Pakistan. Before that, I was somewhere else. We do a lot of traveling.
Because somebody was ill, weren't they? I saw you here about 8 months ago, and somebody been ill. You've been in hospital.
Oh, that's my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's fine. She's fine now. Yeah. But all the best.
Yeah. Do you want to come to the pub? No, you don't
Oh,
want to come to the pub.
cheeky.
Trick question. Trick question.
Good to speak to you. Good night. Whose are these? Whose are these? Whose are they?
Yeah, it's all the brothers.
Can I give them to you?
Yeah.
I never grew up writing or reading it. I only know how to speak it.
Which one of them are yours?
I don't remember. I don't know. They're all mixed black. Let me sort it out. Okay. Hi guys. Where is it? Which mic am I speaking with? Anyway, let's unite in the building. Come on. You know, innit? Assalamu alaikum. Big up everyone. Let's unite up on Haqq in the building. Let's go, champ. Which one is your mic? Whoa. I don't know, he gave me all this. Oh, here, take your one. Take your mic. No. Whose mic is this one? Number 6. Yeah, Sam. Yeah. Which one is your mic? Okay, which is the last ship?
I had like 7 microphones, so I gave them.
Big up everyone.
You guys have them?
Stop. Who's this? It's not mine.
The Bible or the church? No, show me the Bible. Show me. You know why you put the Bible in there and ask for John 33? Because you realize that
You asked me to bring, I brought it.
okay, next week.
I'm not going to use your speculative understanding.
You're debating a false paradigm.
I'm not debating.
We are debating the 5 minutes.
I just put my camera. You don't respect. Look. I can only have a conversation with you. Speak to the text.
The other brother was debating you.
Speak to the text.
Was debating you, and then you went on a long-winded.
Speak to the text.
And to be right to you, it was okay to be long,
You know
but
what?
at least let.
Once you realize my conditions are very clear. Speak as Jesus explained to his disciples, speak without jargons, and speak from the Bible.
And again, your
Continue.
position, you're debating the wrong position because I'm not so.
Continue. I don't care what you are. If you claim to believe in the Bible, let the Bible speak.
Then you're not debating.
I'm not talking about metaphysics. I'm talking about the Bible.
But you're debating the Trinity.
Is the Trinity in the Bible?
The Trinity is the basics of the Trinity
Is in the
are
Bible. Good. Then talk about the Bible then.
There's a more detailed exposition throughout the church fathers who use metaphysics.
It needs to be supported by the Bible.
Hold on. Who use metaphysics to give an in-depth,
Finish your point.
in-depth
Finish your point.
explanation.
Finish your point.
And this is why, first of all, you're presupposing three wills, which no Christian says, no honest Christian says. You're presupposing three wills, and you're presupposing three beings.
Wills. Remember that? Make a note.
Neither
Wills.
of these we profess. That's my point.
Okay. Now here is where the problem is. Christians don't stick to their Bible. They believe in what we call metaphysical speculations.
He's going to show Gethsemane.
Metaphysical speculation. So do you have a Bible? Yes, we do.
That's the Quran, sorry.
Can you open up the Bible? Open up Matthew
Gethsemane,
chapter
right?
20, verse 23. Matthew 20, 23. Just to show you where your old speculative thing about one will is nonsensical according to the Bible. So what does Matthew 20, 23 says? So I want to read that text first.
Matthew.
So he said to them, you would indeed drink my cup and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it is prepared by my Father.
Okay. It is not the will of the Son to give, to sit at the right hand of the Father. It is the will of the Father.
Oh.
Now, when did Jesus say that?
So whose will is it?
Where is he saying that?
So whose will is it?
Where is Jesus saying
Whose will
this?
is it?
Jesus is speaking of two different wills.
And is Jesus speaking?
One, let me finish.
Is Jesus speaking?
He is saying Jesus' will is different from the Father. Why? Because it is not his will to sit on the right of God, because he cannot do that. It is the will.
You're lying, bro.
These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father.
Father's
So,
will.
Father's
He's
will.
not a he's not a
So,
Muslim.
Father's will.
He's not a Muslim.
It is not Jesus' will, it is the
Right.
Father's will. So
Exactly.
here, we find in the text there are two wills.
No.
Like when Jesus says, not according to...
Hold on.
Okay.
Let him speak.
Are you serious?
Hang on. Whose will is to grant to sit at the right hand?
The Father's.
Hold on.
Is it the Son or the Father?
The Father's. It says the Father's.
Whose will is it? The Son or the Father?
It says the Father's.
If it's unified, then it's his will too, right?
Just say your position.
Don't worry about translation.
Let him say his
If it is the will of Jesus unified, then he can will it too.
Yo, you're
The
lying.
fact that he says it's not for me,
My will, but the
it's not
Father's
for
will.
me, that means Jesus' will is not
sorry.
identical to the Father's will. So now, let me come back now. Your question about this leaf, you made
Whose will is it?
strong
It's the
an
Father's
argument
will.
of my position.
But it's the Father's will.
I didn't say
he's
three
lying.
beings. I said three
lying.
things.
Yeah.
Jesus, I
you
interrupted. I can't hear. Because of him. You have to tell him to stop.
Sorry.
I said, according to you Trinitarian Christians, Jesus, whether you call him a hypostasis or persona or an entity or whatever, he is an entity, a living entity that exists. That living entity you qualify with divine attributes. Two of these attributes are power and knowledge. I give an example. This is an example of power. You gave that this Son has all power, is able to lift this up. He's able to do that. The Father is able to lift up somewhere else, able to do that. But then you're saying, no, they would not conflict in their will. But the Bible throughout tells you there are two wills in operation. Jesus says, not according to my will. Look, he says, but your will.
But your will. That's only one will.
The fact that
That's only one will, not
you're
two
interrupting.
wills.
He's interrupting.
He's lying, though.
He's interrupting.
Listen.
When Jesus himself says, not according to my will, but someone else's will, there is a distinction in these wills. They are not the same. Because if it was Jesus' will, he would have said, it's my will to take this cup. But he didn't say that. So the Bible in the text
Your will.
goes against your belief that there's only one will.
Can Can I respond?
I want to see a response.
Okay, first yours was with the text. The text, in fact, you did read a bit into the text because you started talking about wills. The text itself doesn't say two wills. He added that in there. What the text talks about is economic roles. What we talk about when we mean economic roles is roles in reference to the economy of salvation. This means the Father has a different role to creation than the Son and then the Holy Spirit. An example of this. The Son came down and incarnated and died for our sins. Did the Holy Spirit do this? No. The Son did. Same way. The Holy
I can't hear.
I'm sorry.
Do you know why I can't hear? Because of them.
Okay. Same way.
So what are you going to do? You're going to tell them to?
I have to. The same way the Holy Spirit comes into believers and speaks through them. These are what we call economic wills. Willed or by the whole Trinity, but carried out by one of the persons. That's one of my critiques. Second critique. He says three entities. We affirm three entities. Well, this is not true. An entity would affirm numerical.
Strong argument. What did I say?
You said three personas, three hypostases, three entities.
I said whatever you call it. Things. I said things.
Yeah,
Three things.
A thing, a concrete thing would.
I didn't say concrete things. Don't strawman my position.
A thing by
thing.
definition.
Excuse me. A thing is concrete?
Yeah.
And what's an abstract thing?
A concrete.
What is an abstract thing?
It would be essay essentiate, not SAX essentiate.
Hang on. What? Can you give me an example of an abstract thing?
It wouldn't be a thing.
So if something isn't.
It's not a thing. Unless you're going to affirm that.
So you're saying thing is something that is concrete.
Let's go with
whose definition is that?
Let's go with this. If you want to.
No. I want to know whose definition is it.
Let's go with this. If you want.
Why am I going to go with it?
If you want to go with that, because I want to respond. I want to respond and not diverge.
But I don't want to respond with jargon, so it makes no sense.
Cool. If you want to go with that, are you presupposing we affirm concrete things or abstract things?
What do you mean by concrete thing and abstract thing?
A concrete thing would be a thing that has existence and exists in reality.
Does God have existence?
Yes.
Is he concrete?
Yes.
Is God a thing then?
Yes.
Good. So now I'm talking about two things. So continue now.
Okay, so
two things.
Two concrete things, right?
No, according to your definition, you have no problem with that definition.
Okay, cool.
Take that definition and explain.
According to my definition,
yeah.
A concrete thing would necessitate numerical unity. Yes, it would
Excuse me?
It would necessitate a
Whose rule is that?
I said, you just
Whose
said...
rule is that?
Hold on, you just said according to my thing.
Whose rule is that?
Mansoor, this is... No, you are just making it
up. Whose rule is this?
You are making it up. And I'll
I
tell
am
you why this
clarification
is...
needed.
Hold on. This is... Shall I tell you why this is hypocrisy? I'll tell you why this is hypocrisy, right?
He says that
because every time the brother who was just speaking...
Clarification.
Hold on.
I cannot speak to you because you're speaking gibberish.
Hold on, I'm speaking.
You're speaking gibberish.
I'm still speaking.
So I want to clarify what you mean. I want you to clarify. I will interrupt for clarification. Because I do not understand your language.
I will interrupt for clarification.
I do not understand your language.
And you agree?
So, whose rule is that?
You agree that if I interrupt for clarification,
Interrupt me.
Okay.
So now, whose rule is that?
Again, you asked from my
whose rule is it?
I'm answering that question. So just let me answer it with more than 2 seconds, please. Do me the justice.
And answer what I asked.
It is my rule from my paradigm, right? I don't
agree with that.
Okay, you don't.
I don't agree with that. You're bringing in arbitrary rules from your belief system. I don't agree with that. The discussion is over.
All right, cool.
If you continue like this, the discussion will not proceed. I do not agree with your arbitrary rules from your own paradigm. No, I don't want to define anything. What I'm saying is what I'm asking you is very simple.
Yeah.
Whatever you believe the sun is, that's what I said.
You said three things.
Listen.
You affirmed that
I said, whether you believe in hypostasis, persona, modes, thing, doesn't matter. You believe in a living entity. This thing is a living thing, right?
Define thing and define entity.
No, I'm not going to...
No, because you're straw manning. You're straw manning.
Is the sun living?
Hold on. You're saying I believe in three
I am going to define. Living.
Yes.
Is that sun living?
Yes.
Right. That living sun, he said, I have a...
Yes,
This
in
is
John
falsehood.
6:38. Open it.
No,
Yes.
I'll-
Open it.
I'll-
Open John 6.
exactly what
Open
he
John
said.
68.
He said,
"My
"Not by
will."
my will,
Read
by
it.
the Father's
No,
will, right?
my will. He said, Jesus said,
Not by
my
my
will.
will,
Read
by
your
your
scripture.
Okay, okay, let me
No, no.
explain this.
He is denying. He is
Are you
denying.
gonna let me explain this?
He is
I
denying.
know the verse.
You are in denial.
He is in denial.
But
You-
you're
No,
denying.
speak. No one's involving you, bro.
Okay, let's hear your
I'm
response.
just letting I'm not
It's
letting
okay.
him. I'm not
What is your
letting him lie.
response? What is your
I'm not
response?
letting him lie.
It's okay. What is your response?
My response is, when he says not by my will, by your will, he's affirming that he wills nothing apart from what the Father wills, which would mean they have one will.
No.
That's our exegesis on that verse.
No.
Okay,
Your
so we
exegesis
can-
is wrong. I'll
we
tell you
can
why wrong.
agree
It's not about disagreeing. You are simply going against the text. He says, not according to my will, but according to your will. Look here.
John 6:38.
For I have come down from heaven not to do my will. Okay. So he's making a
Distinction, my will.
negation of what? He's saying, I haven't come to do my will.
That means he has.
Okay. Does he have a will?
Yes.
This statement says he does have a will and he hasn't come according to do his will. Then he says to do the will of him who sent me. So he's the sent and there's a sender. So did he come by his own will to do his own will? No. He says, I have not come to do my will, but the one who sent me. So there is two wills. So I don't need to, I don't need your definitions anymore. It's so obvious in the text. Look, a verse that is clear doesn't need an explanation. Look,
No,
friend,
that's a falsehood.
a verse that is clear, and if you try to twist it, then it's a disease in your heart.
There's so many things in the Islamic.
Is that clear or not?
You do this.
Hang on.
Hold on.
Is this verse clear or unclear?
I've given you a perfectly valid explanation.
What is
Now,
what?
we
Your explanation was what?
Hold on.
Twisting,
My
what is clear?
explanation, again, when he's saying not by my will, he's indicating that. The
Does he have a will,
because
though?
He is doing.
Does he have a will?
Hold on. Instead of doing anything that is his own,
Does Jesus
he's
have a will?
Hold
Does Jesus
on.
have a will?
Bro,
Does Jesus have a
I'm
will?
not doing this debate. I'm not talking to you. You're interrupting. I'm talking
What?
to him.
You're talking to
Dude, no, stop being rude.
Yeah.
Stop being
Hold
rude.
on.
No,
we don't allow someone to lie.
It's
We
okay.
don't allow someone to lie.
Now,
He's a heckler.
No, what I'm asking you is this.
Yes.
When somebody says, I'm going to my father, does that mean they have a father or not?
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody says, I am not applying my will, not according to my will, does that statement affirm they have a will?
Not according to my will would just
Wait.
indicate that. Hold on.
Well, hold on. Understand my question. If somebody says, not according to my will, does that statement affirm that this speaker has a will?
Not necessarily, and here's why. If you're saying
Hang
not,
on. Why not necessarily?
that's why I just said not necessarily, and here why. So there's no need to
No, hang on.
Hold on. And
If
I'm
somebody,
explaining
wait,
why. I'm
wait.
explaining why.
Before
No,
you
no.
explain, I want to understand the
you
basis.
asked a
If
question
somebody
about-
says, I'm going to my God, it means I don't have a God. Is that what it means? What does it mean then? If somebody says, I'm going to my God, means what? It affirms that this person has a God or not? Not necessarily, right? Why not necessarily here? Why the double standard?
It's because there's a difference. That's affirmatory, this is denial. For example, you're saying, I'm going to my God. That's not what he's saying. I'm not, imagine I say,
Let me
hold
give you an
on, hold
example.
on, hold
No,
on,
let me
hold on. No, because you're
Let
not
me
letting
give the
speak.
same example.
No, you have
Same
to let me
example.
speak.
I
You
say
have to
that.
let me
I say,
speak. No,
I am not
You're-
standing
you're
according
being a
to my will.
hypocrite.
If
You're
I
being
said
a
that,
hypocrite.
wait.
No, I'm
I'm
not
clarifying.
waiting because you're not
I'm
waiting.
clarifying.
You've clarified too many times.
You are
Now
not
let me
getting
speak.
it.
Let me speak.
You're not getting
You're
it.
not letting me on, sir. So
So,
how do you know if I'm not
one
getting
last
it?
time then. One
No,
last
no,
time.
no,
One last
no,
time.
no last time.
If I
Stop.
said,
I'm
I
not
am
gonna
standing
keep-
here, I am standing here according to my will or according to not my will. What does it mean?
Asking if I say not by my will.
He's
You know
not
what?
talking. He's not
You're
engaging.
interrupting me on
You
YouTube.
are not engaging.
Shut your
It's okay,
mouth.
it's okay.
Get out of school.
You know what?
Be respectful.
I gave you.
He wasn't
It's okay. It's okay.
disrespectful.
You are
It's okay.
disrespectful.
Brother, it's okay. Patience. I gave you last example. If I said myself,
You said it a thousand times.
look, if I said, I am not standing here according to my will, in my statement, does it affirm that I have a will?
No, it affirms that you're standing there on account of someone else's will. First.
Does it affirm I have a will or not?
No. it affirms that you're standing there on account of someone
But
else's
my
will.
question is,
This statement-
does it
hold on,
affirm that I have a will?
Hold on, this statement is neither an affirmation nor a denial that you have your own will. All it is saying is that you're in this
In reality.
sport. No.
In
all
reality.
This, yes.
In
all
reality.
this is saying that you're in this sport on account of another's will. That's all that position
Wait,
says.
stop.
And similarly-
Stop. I'm going to rebut your statement.
Well, you can rebuke after
I'm not rebuking, I'm doing a rebuttal.
All right.
Right.
You can do
Because
that
what you just
after I
said
finish.
is not making
You can
sense.
do that after I finish.
You can keep on your philosophical jargons?
Yes.
Then no talk.
It's contradictory
Yeah.
with the scripture. It says
Yeah.
that yet
Yeah,
not
yeah.
as I will, but as you will. As
Yes.
I will means he
Yes.
can will.
No.
It's clear.
This is
Matthew
what- and
26,
again,
39.
All this gymnastics is going to help you.
When he says
Mental gymnastics is going to help you. Now we are finished this discussion.
Okay, fine.
Because we're not getting anywhere. Do you know why we're not getting anywhere?
Because you're not letting
Because
me
you
speak.
are
Because-
making mental gymnastics. The text says in black and white, as
not as
look, let me read it again.
Are you gonna let me speak? Or
Going a little, he fell with his face.
Are you gonna let me speak or finish?
My father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will. Does he have a will?
Not as I will. Hold
No,
on.
when he says not as I will, does he have a will?
Yes.
No.
Everyone says yes, you say no.
Not
Oh,
as-
Christians.
hold on.
That's why we don't talk to clowns. People who clowning the discussion.
Are you gonna let me speak?
No, because
Yes,
I am
see
not
this
going to continue the
position.
discussion
This is
because
sophistry, blatant
sophistry from you.
Man,
You know what?
he will
You know,
not
now
let
I
me
realize
speak.
why
He
we
will not let
avoid
me answer,
people.
and he keeps
Anyone
answering.
else?
Proper example of
But when
hypocrisy.
someone else interrupts
Sorry?
him, he's always talking.
I can't talk to you. Do you know why?
Don't speak to me.
Because you are not faithful in the text. Sorry.
Give it to he says, not by my own will, by my father. He's indicating. I'm doing that. He's indicating that he does not will apart from brother. He's saying, not by my own will, but by the father will.
Where is the brothers?
Father is qua the will is qua the father.
Everyone.
All mic.
Yeah.
Why every day?
He put it in my... No, he boiled with hair and then he put it in my bag.
Many mics, my brother. Why every time you have to smoke?
Not me, I was there, he boiled everything together in the hand. He said, take it.
Yeah, she's the black one.
Sam. Yeah. Sam, I just came now.